night. UEFA's president Alexander Shefrin is pushing for a blanket withdrawal of Infantino support from all 55 UEFA nations and is looking to form a pact with CONCACAF. Here's talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs.
And if the number gets to that magic total of 106, a majority from the 211 members, then Infantino may realise even if he wants to stand again, he's being cornered. And as soon as he loses that majority, he may be forced to walk away. And if he doesn't, the next step could be a vote of no confidence.
Former FA chair David Bernstein says UEFA should go even harder at FIFA.
I think they should extend that and say they would not play in the World Cup if Infantino continues as president. I think the one is sort of so close to the other that I think to continue that threat is a good thing.
Away from FIFA politics, Newcastle United have signed goalkeeper Lukas Hornacek from Braga for £25.7 million. They've already signed 20-year-old Ewan Zhaoen from Reims this summer. Manchester United's women's manager has left his role by mutual consent. Mark Skinner won the club's first major women's honour with the 2024 FA Cup, but led them to a 12th place finish in the WSL last season. And Australia's full-strength lineup and 171 medals at the Commonwealth Games is evidence the event still has genuine global appeal. That's according to our correspondent Michael Waydock, who says from a British perspective, middle-distance superstar Josh Kerr's presence was vital.
The fact that he kind of stated at the start of the year that these are the two things I want to achieve. I want to break the world record. I want to win that gold at Scotstoun, where I trained as a teenager. And the fact that he came out and did it in such style, he would be, for me, the highlight of the Games.
Well, the Games weren't on terrestrial television in the UK, but organisers said their global audience targets were met.
talkSPORT News.
Reform says they'll bring in the Royal Navy to deal with small boat crossings, and heat alerts are now in force across many parts of England. Sinead has more at 10:30.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. This summer, treat yourself to Bridgestone Turanza all-season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Temperatures pushing above 30 in the south on another sunny, hot day. Cloudier further north and west with outbreaks of rain occasionally, particularly across Scotland.
Very good morning. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan on talkSPORT. So, as Newcastle's impending new boss, Matthias Jaissler, is seen on their pre-season training camp, is this a time for optimism for the fans or one of trepidation, with captain Bruno Guimaraes having talks with the club over a potential move to Arsenal? Meanwhile, the Welsh FA have withdrawn its support to Gianni Infantino to be re-elected as FIFA president, with more nations, including England, set to follow. Where does the game go from here after a turbulent week? Plus, what does the future hold for the Commonwealth Games? Do pre-season results really matter? And is it already advantage Celtic in the Scottish Premiership? This is Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan on talkSPORT.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Kev, good to see you. How you feeling?
Yeah, you too, mate. You had a good week in Glorious Goodwood. It's lovely to see that big smile on your face, mate.
There were a lot of smiles over the course of the week, I have to say. But, ready to come to work for a rest this morning.
Yeah. A rest from what you call it, your rest? Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's get straight into Newcastle, shall we? Still waiting for official confirmation. The worst-kept secret in football has been pictured in Newcastle training kit. The German Matthias Jaissler, once of Al Ahly, and obviously with a good reputation in the Bundesliga as well, is Eddie Howe's replacement. He's linked up with the team in La Manga. He was introduced to the players over the weekend. I'm guessing is this the first chance you really had to react to the news that Eddie Howe's gone and there's a new man in charge?
Yeah, I think, when obviously the rumour mill started coming around late last week, you're looking at it and thinking, what's kicked off, and then when you the more and more, and we start hearing from yourself and what you're hearing and everything else, I think sort of Eddie's gone, you know what, I think this is time now to move, to walk out. We spoke, I think, last week, the week before, when I said, it looked like he had refreshed Eddie when he had that conversation with the board late last season. There was a lot of stuff around, rumour mills again about him leaving and stuff like that, but he seemed like he had a clear direction of how he wanted to take the club, and they were all in support of that. And then all of a sudden now, in the last week or so, it looks that, he's been obviously having them maybe little wars behind the scenes, and not being able to get the players he probably wanted.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that he was very close to deciding to leave at the end of the season, decided to stay on and give it another go. Then about 2 weeks ago, he changed his mind again and said to the hierarchy, I think the time is right for a change in the dugout, but I'll stay on until such time as you find a replacement. And speaking of people close to Eddie Howe, it certainly wasn't a decision that he took lightly. It's a club that he holds dear to his heart, and he's proud of what he's achieved over the last 5 years. I do wonder if that criticism from a minority of Newcastle fans, with the way the season tailed off in the Premier League, finishing below Sunderland, I wonder if that did play a big part in his decision, as well as you say, frustrations in the transfer market.
I think probably it was just now where the journey was taking him. Is it now where he's going to step up and go again? And it doesn't seem that way. I think they've gone in a different direction, which is going to be a lot tougher for any manager. Never mind Eddie going in. He's had 4.5, fantastic years there, where he's had 2 seasons in the Champions League. He's won a trophy for the first time in, God knows now, what was it, 60 years, was it, I think, when the last one they won? Or 60 plus years. So he's done terrifically well, and I know for a fact, because he not only done the work off the field, he took the whole everything serious about Newcastle and being a Geordie and what it takes.
He lived and breathed it, didn't he?
And he lived it there. He lived the life there. His family and everything else. So you can't, and that's why he has been successful. And I think he's probably looked at it and thought, now, this is time for me to come out and come away and give someone else an opportunity, because he's probably not feeling where he was 4 years ago when we kept them up under them really tough circumstances. He'd done a fantastic job. Everyone forgets that bit. And then he's now, and now he's looking at it thinking we may not now get to where I wanted and where I envisioned we would be in the 5th year when I took over Newcastle. So I think that's maybe why he's walked.
I do wonder if we need to turn a bit more spotlight on the owners here. When you look at the talent that they've allowed to leave the building since the start of last season, when obviously the Alexander Isak saga dragged on pretty much, well, it was the final day of the window when he completed that British record move to Liverpool. Anthony Gordon went almost as soon as the last ball of last season was kicked to Barcelona. Good money, I know. Same for Sandro Tonali, £100 million deal. We are expecting Bruno Guimaraes to join Arsenal. I've asked the question this morning, has he, as planned, reported for duty in Spain? No answer back yet. We'll try and update you over the course of the programme. But you look at those departures, and then you look at the players that are coming in, talented players like Elaji Bamba, the defensive midfielder signed from Monaco. Lucas Hornacek has completed his £27.5 million move from Braga this morning. 6'6" goalkeeper. Sean Sturr as well, coming in from Ajax, and also Bazemana Toure. But all unproven in the Premier League. And you know how unforgiving this league can be.
And that's the point. I think the problem is Eddie would have been looking at it with the staff and everybody, because, obviously all them have left with him. And he would have thought, this is going to be a real tough year. Have we got it in us to do this now? Is it what we look now and envisage where we want to be? You've got to think about that. Eddie's been talked about being the England manager for the last couple of years, when every time, it comes along, he's always one of the main contenders for that job. So is he sort of thinking, this is going to be a real tough year? It could go the other way. And now I might as well get out of it and let them go in a different direction.
While his stock is still relatively high.
Stock is where it should be, and where it should never have left. And like you said, there was a minority at the end of last season who were sort of pointing the finger at Eddie. And I think now it's coming to fruition why it was sort of happening, because there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes which he was sort of taking on his shoulder. And as you said there, we thought about it last season about stepping away. He's probably had all the summer to go away, think about it, speak with his family, see how it is, and then he sort of took the advice of everybody around him, probably who's close to him, to go, you know what, no, this is the time now.
I want to hear from Newcastle fan this morning. Are you excited about this new era? Do you have trepidation about the new Premier League season just 3 weeks away? Liverpool at St James's Park. I'll be there for talkSPORT on that first Sunday of the season. 03 717 22 3344 is the number to call. You can text us 81089 as well. Let's get a bit of perspective on the man who is replacing Eddie Howe, if we can. Matthias Jaissle coming in from the Saudi Pro League. German football correspondent Seb Stafford-Blur believes this will be an exciting appointment.
Newcastle fans, this is exciting. Matthias Jaissle is his roots are in the Red Bull system, so he plays in the way you'd expect, very direct, very forward-thinking, very aggressive without the ball. He's a very passionate character, very active on the touchline. I mean, he's won back-to-back Asian Champions Leagues, those are the first continental trophies in El Ahly's history in the Saudi Pro League. So he's done a terrific job, and he's still only 38 as well. This is a guy who's still developing, but he's a fascinating character.
There you go, Seb Stafford-Blur. Pretty positive about the man who's coming in, Matthias Jaissle, as we understand the pronunciation is. I guess there's always a bit of suspicion, Kev, when a manager who's relatively unknown in these shores takes the job. But speaking to everybody who's tracked his career, Kev Hatchard as well, our Bundesliga correspondent, they do think this is quite a good coup for Newcastle, and actually wasn't an easy deal to do. I think they're paying about £9 million compensation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the Saudi connection probably helps that to get the deal done and everything else and get it over the line. But yeah, look, I know very little about him, so I'm not going to, sort of judge him. It's one of them. It's going to be a real tough job to come into, Rookie, in my eyes. I like the fact that a young manager is getting an opportunity at the top end of the game after, doing reasonably well in other leagues. I would have liked to have seen him be English, if I'm honest. But I want them to do well because it's my old club. I want them to do well. I want them to come in. But it just, I'm worried a bit, because these lads who, you mentioned them before, real top talents. We've got a top talented manager who's supposed to be up and coming. All these youngsters who are top talents, Bamber, who's probably only had 1 year, probably fully in the professional game. There's a Toure who couldn't get into the Senegalese side in the summer. The boy from Ajax, who's not, they're not flamboyant.
They're not the side they once were.
So these are they're talented, but the Premier League is unforgiving. So will their sort of frailties or not to be negative, but will they be exposed? And that's the worry I have for Newcastle this season now.
Well, we're going to keep talking Newcastle in the next part of the programme. Lots of Magpies fans want to get involved in this debate. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the new season? The new manager coming in, your captain looks likely to depart. You've got a new goalkeeper through the door this morning, all 6'6" of him as well. Give us a call, 03717 22 33 44. You can text 81089. You're listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Up and said you got 10 players better than John Stones.
But I said all time. I didn't say Prem, but let's stick to Prem. All right, let's do this.
Go on.
Virgil van Dijk, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Vincent Kompany.
Yeah,
that's five.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we going Tony Adams?
Oh yeah.
No,
you're not gonna say.
No, but go on.
I would.
Campbell.
I'd do Sol Campbell, defo.
And I'm a Tottenham
Sol
fan.
Campbell, come on, JB.
Keep going.
I'm going Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
Oh. Gary Pallister.
Carvalho.
Mate, come on.
Carvalho.
Don't help him. Why are you helping him? Carvalho's not better than John Stones.
Carvalho. Ricardo Carvalho.
Jamie, hear me out.
Give me a break, man.
On his day, prime to prime, one game for a final, Ledley King.
Yeah, Ledley King. What, you telling me Ledley King? Oh, come on, Jamie.
Listen, Jamie, not for career, but for one game in his prime.
I watched John Stones playing the Champions League final.
I know
he was
unbelievable.
He was unbelievable. So let's.
I hear it, but
like,
you know
come
what
on.
I think, yeah? I heard.
You can't be putting Ledley King above John Stones. He's won 6 Premier League titles.
Phil Jagielka, mate. Phil Jagielka.
Holy shut up, mate. Come on.
I mean, mate, Jamie.
Julian Lescott.
I would go as far as to say if Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld played in that City team, they might have won the same honours.
Gary Cahill.
They would have won the same honours.
He's on Gary Cahill's level.
You're making a lot of noise, Cole.
Crook and Kevin Nolan here on talkSPORT all the way through until 1 o'clock. We're going to take some Newcastle calls very shortly, but just the latest from my colleague Ben Jacobs on this Gianni Infantino situation. We understand the English FA will write to Infantino to withdraw its letter of support ahead of March's presidential election at FIFA. The initial endorsement from the English FA is understood to have been sent in before the World Cup. This move is part of a UEFA-wide alignment with Alexander Seferin pushing for a blanket withdrawal of support for Infantino from member associations. The Welsh FA have also removed their support publicly. UEFA carries 55 votes. 106 are needed to gain a majority from FIFA's 211 member associations. That's one vote per federation, regardless of the size or stature. So UEFA can't remove Infantino without backing of other federations or confederations. CONCACAF, which carries a further 41 votes, is aligned with UEFA that the change at the top is needed. Indeed, their president, Victor Montagliani, is now considering whether to stand against Infantino at the next election. This is a story that is going to run and run. Stay right across it at talksport.com. Let's take some calls, shall we? Lewis is a Newcastle fan. Lewis, what's your view on the season ahead in the wake of Eddie Howe's departure?
Morning, boys. How you doing?
Morning, Lewis.
Yeah. You know what? Like, for me, I was sad to see Eddie go last week, but all the very best for Yisler coming in. It's very exciting. It's good for us to see a new, up-and-coming, fast-paced, electric sort of football manager come in. So we're all pretty excited for that. On the transfer sort of market and how we're going about the market at the minute, I don't mind going for young European players because when Bruno came to Newcastle, no one really knew who he was, and then he came and he was brilliant. And then we went for Premier League proven players in the past few years, like Anthony Elanga, and he underperformed.
Yeah.
What for me concerns me is the thing that got us to the Champions League in that first full year of Eddie Howe was the fact that we had a born leader on the pitch in Kieran Trippier. And that's my big concern going into this season. Who's going to be the captain of the club this year? Probably Dan Burn. And is he going to start over Botman, Chow and Hall? I'm not sure. Maybe over Botman, maybe. We lack a leader. Sunderland did well last year because of Xhaka. Chelsea are going in for Henderson and Welbeck because of lack of leader. Good teams have good leadership, and that's a massive, massive concern that we've got to go out there now and get somebody who's going to lead that team next season, because Bruno looks like he's out the door, really.
That's a great point, Lewis. Thanks for the call. Just heard Crookie question the owners selling the big players as if they didn't want to leave, even with Eddie in charge. Tonali, Gordon, Isak, all wanted out when Eddie was there. There's nothing you can do if players don't want to play for the club anymore. I just think Eddie didn't have the energy to do another rebuild. I think that's a reasonable point. And I mean, you've been at the club. Yeah. Obviously, it's got a special place in your heart. But they know their place in the food chain, Newcastle, despite what the chief executive says, and we'll get his clip in a minute. So if a club like Arsenal come in for Guimaraes, or Tottenham for Tonali, or Barcelona for Anthony Gordon, it's very difficult to stand in their way, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, I think, and that's the thing with it. I think he makes a real good point. It's probably Eddie looking at it going, this is a new rebuild, which brings with it, though, a ton of, uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Because the lads who he brought in before in that build, when they were talking about getting into the Champions League, being in Champions League year in year out, then hopefully gaining that experience to start challenging for the title. When you're looking at it now, it's a total different, a lot of transfer activity coming in. So and you just don't know what you're going to get with these young lads. You're hoping that they can all hit the ground running, which is always tough. Yeah, and I think it was Lewis who just said there, it's the leaders. A lot of them lads who've left the dressing room would have been leaders in that dressing room and leaders within the club. So very big shoes to fill for both the manager and the players coming in.
Adam says, as a Newcastle fan, I'm really excited for the new season. Under Howe looks stale, dejected, and would have had serious concerns. This new guy may not work, but he offers hope. Eddie did a superb job and is forever a legend, but things ran their course. Niall also says Solly March would be a perfect fit for Newcastle, experienced and free. And I think I'm right in saying he's a Newcastle fan as well. He was on breakfast with the boys this morning. Let's bring in Dave. Dave, you're quite optimistic about the arrival of Matthias Jaisler.
Morning, Dave.
Dave, you there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, we got you, yeah. What do you want to say?
Yeah. I'm saying, to be honest, first off, Kev, you'll always be a cult hero up here after that demolition, after you demolished the Mackens.
Thank you, mate.
Rick.
Yeah, what a good day that was, mate.
Oh, dear. Well, I heard about your champagne at the end of it, but let's not go there. I'm sick of all these doomsayers, all these people that are whinging on about this guy. Give the guy a chance. You know what I mean? The king's dead, long live the king, in my opinion. All these young kids coming in, good luck to them. That is a real worry. The centre mid is our problem, and I mean Joe's a leader, but unfortunately I think his legs is gone. He's been with the club 7-8 years now. We need a good quality midfielder to come in charge, and I don't think there's anyone there that I would say can do the job. But we'll have to wait and see. We're after a couple of other guys, an Algerian and this Danish kid. And if we get those two, the Danish kid's going to be almost as much as it costs for Bruno to go. Because in my opinion, Bruno should go. He's already put his flags out and said he wants to leave. Well, if you don't want to be at the club, don't leave him at the club.
Yeah,
you'll always be a hero, in my opinion. So
Dave, cheers for the call. Let's bring in Alan. He's also a Newcastle fan. He's called 03717 22 33 44. Alan, you're not quite as optimistic as our previous couple of callers.
Morning, Alan.
No, I'm very frustrated. Good morning, lads. I'm very frustrated. I think you've got to look at the bigger picture. And the reason why Howe got frustrated was you weren't allowed to develop the club the way they wanted to develop the club because of, I think it's not so much a conspiracy, but the new rules, these rules that are applying, seem to apply to certain clubs. And like when you see Chelsea losing 260 million and gone out and spend another $250,000 and they're in Europe, it's all wrong. We've got more money than anybody in the world, but we can't spend it. Manchester City, Chelsea, and this Chelsea just got fined £10 million for breaking every rule in the book. We've tried to stick to the rules, and we're getting punished by it because we've now lost our manager, we're losing our good players. Because of why? Because people are stopping with Aston Villa, same problem, having to sell our best players. It's not right. Football's gonna kill itself because of greed. Look what FIFA's just tried to do.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah, Alan, cheers for the call. I mean, you can hear he's very frustrated there. Just want to play this clip from David Hopkinson halfway through last season. He joined us up at St James's Park. We were doing a show to mark the launch of the new Premier League darts season, and well, he had ambitious plans as to where Newcastle could get to in the next 5 years.
We have a high ambition here. We have a concrete plan. It's a 5-year plan. It takes us through 2030, and it has benchmarks along the way. A plan without a time frame attached to it is just a fantasy. It's just a dream. So we have a plan here. We have a strategy here. We're working on executing that every single day. But 10 years is too long. We got to think about how we are consistently contending for those top prizes within 5 years. 10 years, you walk at a certain pace. With 5 years, I already feel like we're burning daylight, and we need to get after this every.
So by 2030. Newcastle United, this great club, will have been Premier League champions. That's what you're telling me?
That's our ambition.
I'm all for ambition, Kev.
Yeah.
But I just wonder how much pressure that put on Eddie Howe amid this backdrop of selling star players and obviously this summer bringing in young, up-and-coming talent from across Europe. If you were the manager and your chief executive comes out and says we're going to win the Premier League in 5 years, how would you feel about that?
Show me the money then. And it has to be that because, they're not there at the minute. They weren't there at the minute, even with the players and the top players who are all going now and been picked off by all the top clubs in Europe. So, you look at that and look, you can never take it away from it. They've got real good money for them players. Now, if they get in the region of 70 to 80 million for Guimaraes through, they've done brilliant getting that money. It's just how it goes then and how it's...
Well, that's 250 million then on him, Tonali and Gordon that would have come into the building. And what are they spending? Are they going to spend that 250 million to make sure that the squad is ready and ready to go? Now, he spoke a lot there about a plan. Mr. Hopkinson, he spoke a lot about what they see and how they see it. So that must have been echoed towards Eddie as well within the last few months and everything else, and he probably doesn't agree with that plan in certain aspects of because of how it's gone with us saying selling the top players and then bringing unproven younger talent into the Premier League, which we all know it's an unforgiving league. Yeah, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think it looks very difficult for Newcastle with this business model to challenge even for Europe this season, let alone the Premier League title by 2030. But we shall see confirmation that Matthias Jaisler has joined up with the Newcastle squad on their pre-season tour of Spain. Yet to get confirmation as to whether Bruno Guimaraes has touched down. We'll try and get that before we leave you at 1 o'clock today. Coming up in the next part of the programme, we're going to turn our attentions to the champions, Arsenal. Staying with Liverpool, there are some reports that they have now made a formal offer worth £100 million for Bradley Barcola. I reported a couple of days ago that Barcola wanted to make the move to Anfield, but you've not been too inspired by this possibility.
No, I'm with Jamie Carragher in the camp that I saw him the other day talking about it. We have like 3-4 left wingers already, players who can play there. We need to fill the void by Salah. Frimpong was meant to help with that, but we know he's got medical injury issues last year and not quite what we like to see out wide right when he did play. We need a right winger. It's concerning. And we're going out and we're getting another pacey player who plays on the left majority of the time. So unless Rio's going to get put on the right, square pegs, round holes, all that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love it because of the money. If he was 60, 70 million, and I get it, he's not. Yeah. You think, okay, it's a no-brainer. Then you maybe sell Gakpo and you clear up some space on the left and you still go get a right winger. But Liverpool right now are playing with one centre-back and the other centre-back on one leg. So, they've got issues. McAllister's going to come back. He was a shadow of himself last year. They need some help in central midfield. Potentially need a right back because really we haven't got a right back. Frimpong's obviously going to play in
Joe
there,
Gomez is now
else.
going to miss the start of the season.
Yeah, that's Joe Gomez. God bless him. You know, could have been a world-class defender, but obviously injuries have stopped that. So Liverpool have got a lot of holes to fill. So, and you got to start a right wing to fill Mo Salah's, departure. So it does concern me that we're going down this rabbit hole where we might end up paying, I don't know, like the Weirds money, you overpay, and then does the player adapt to the Premier League, and is it another bad signing? And it's frustrating for me.
talkSPORT News.
Good morning. With your headlines, I'm Sinead Garvan. Reform UK say they'll bring in the Royal Navy to stop small boat crossings if they get into government. But Labour say it's a distraction from growing sleaze scandals within their party. Reform's Zia Youssef says Andy Burnham's failing to grasp the scale of the problem.
People don't want to hear about safe and legal routes for people from other countries. What they want is safety and legality for British people.
Well, it comes as French cops are billing the UK £8,000 for every migrant they stop crossing the Channel. The Sun claims it could total $1 billion by the end of the year. While the government are yet to comment on these specific figures, Andy Burnham said yesterday he will be relentless in tackling the crisis. A 9-year-old girl found with serious injuries at an industrial estate in Arbroath has died. Police were called in the early hours of this morning. A man has now been arrested. And heat alerts are in place across England as temperatures could reach 35 degrees this afternoon. And the lack of rain could lead to food shortages this winter. That's the warning from the National Farmers Union. So there's now huge pressure on the dairy sector. The hot, dry weather has caused cows to produce 18.5 million fewer litres of milk recently.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan on talkSPORT. We're here all the way through until 1 o'clock. Thanks to all the Newcastle fans who got involved in the first half an hour of the programme. Ray says, tell me you don't know anything about football without telling me that bloke from Newcastle is deluded. Man United haven't won the title in 13 years. He expects to do that in 5 while selling the best players and not backing the best English manager around. Give your heads a wobble. Darren says the Newcastle fan is delusional. Newcastle can't attract foreign superstars who want to go to London, Manchester and Liverpool. Newcastle and Villa are just not popular. As somebody who's worn the black and white stripes, Kev, how would you react to that?
Yeah, it's always been something what people have said and probably used. But there's not. I mean, I love my time up there. You know, my wife settled in there as well with the kids. My boy was born in Newcastle. So I never quite get that. I know there's always a lot now with the wags, as they call them now, and them wanting and preferring to be in London. But I think you know Newcastle's got the airport's proper now. You can get everywhere and anywhere within moments. So
2.5 hours on the train from London as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see that being a problem anymore. The biggest thing for me now is that I think they've decided to go in a direction, and obviously that direction didn't suit Eddie Howe and his plans and where he thought that the direction should be going. Mr. Hopkinson's got a lot to answer for, certainly in the next 6 months to a year if it doesn't pan out the way he's expecting, because of what he says. And when you are ambitious, there's nothing wrong with ambition and wanting to do well. But you've got to realise that to probably be the top and take the people off the top, you've got to match them and more than match them, or most of the time go over and above beyond.
So Newcastle looking to mount a title challenge, according to their CEO, by 2030. Arsenal, the current champions, looking to go back-to-back in the Premier League. Been a relatively quiet summer so far. They've signed Ilian Meslier as a backup goalkeeper, and the forward Christos Zolis, who by all accounts scored a really good goal against Girona at the weekend. Pierre Hincapié has made his loan move permanent. We expect them to sign Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle. They've also been linked with an ambitious move for Vinicius Junior, although I still think he'll probably end up staying at Real Madrid. How do you assess Arsenal going into the new season?
Yeah, I think this is where, he's year by year, Mikel Arteta has grown the team and the squad by not, going ridiculous in everything. He's realised he needed to get better players in certain areas of the pitch or certain positions, and I think that's where we're at now. I think the left-hand side for me is probably one where we can get better. The number 9 probably, and obviously with Bruno coming in, that will make the midfield better, no doubt. And if they're going to battle on all fronts in Champions League and winning the Premier League again, when it's a great time, by the way, to try and go back to back with Man City changing the managers, Liverpool changing manager, Chelsea changing manager. Everyone's talking about all these, so it's a real good time because they've got a real settled squad who've now got over the line in the Premier League. They've got to the Champions League. They've got probably the best defensive record in Europe, or one of the best defences in Europe. So I think it's all about being savvy in the market and getting the right ones, and not just thinking, oh, well, he's up for sale, we need to go and get him. But I do expect them, if they don't get Vinicius Junior, to try and get someone who's going to be on that left-hand side.
Well, let's hear from Mikel Arteta. I mentioned that 4-1 pre-season victory against Girona at the weekend, after which the Arsenal manager discussed their summer transfer plans.
We are very active trying to improve and evolve the team, that's clear. We expect to have movements in the next few weeks, obviously, because we want to get better like anybody else, and you just can see the transfer market and our opponents, what we are doing. We won't sit still, and we are very ambitious what we want to do. The margins are very small, because we want to get better and the level is going to increase. We need to increase the competition internally. We need to make sure we identify the things that we don't have in the team, to have bigger margins, and that's the way we have to think.
I just wonder how much of Arsenal's summer recruitment, you mentioned it there, is going to be about winning that elusive first Champions League, because they've got the Premier League title now. They ended their 20-odd year drought. Do you think Arteta will prioritise going back-to-back domestically, or is it all about trying to win that European Cup and doing what no Arsenal manager has done before him?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting, won't it? I think that's why he's recruited, a Guimaraes, or Bruno, as I call him. I think that's why he has gone down that route, because he needs people to be able to go. And you've seen with Declan in the summer, and with Saka, you've seen with them too, really, they look burnt out, if you like, or not burnt out, but they just didn't look themselves. So is it going to be where you'll see a lot more of them, him swapping and changing them players so that he gets them and they're ready to go, come back into the next season, and be like that sort of Man City. He's seen how Pep used to do it with the City team, where he'd go on them fabulous runs at the end of the season and just blow teams away. And I think that's probably what he's looking at now, where he can sort of mix and match that with what quality squad he's building. And as I said, I think he's probably 1 or 2 more signings away.
How big a concern is William Saliba's back injury? He doesn't require surgery, that's the good news, but he is going to miss the opening weeks of the season. Declan Rice looked to me like he was running on empty by the end of that World Cup. Obviously, Bukayo Saka had his own fitness struggles. 3 really key players. Is there any concern, if you're Arteta, about burnout for those 3?
Well, I think he probably give them an extended break between the 3 of them, because of the amount of football that they played and the majority of the games they played for Arsenal last year. They won't want it, because they want to keep playing games. They want to play games, or they want to play every week, and that's what I love about them, lads. You always hear them saying, "I'm ready, I'm fit, I'm ready to go," even when you are, and that's what you want from your squad. But I think Mikel Arteta's probably got to look at it and think, right, okay, we're going to give you a little bit more extended time. So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see them for the first few weeks anyway, and just in and around the squad. And just coming back just before the week starts or the season starts, because he's got plenty of time. And obviously, if he gets Guimaraes over the line, and Zubamendi as well, who's done well last year, coming in and out. So they've got enough to see them through them first few weeks before, and give them lads the time they need.
It's not the easiest start to the season for Arsenal. They've got the Community Shield live on talkSPORT from Cardiff, Sunday, August the 16th. Then they're live on talkSPORT again the first Friday of the Premier League season at home to Coventry. Not easy to face a newly promoted side, but you'd expect them to beat Frank Lampard's men at home. Then they go to Villa, a team they've had problems against in recent weeks. That game is also live on talkSPORT. Then a London derby against Chelsea, Sunderland away, and Brighton away. So they are going to have to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to do. I think you've got to sort of put a marker out there and go, right, this is where we are and what we're going to do. So he'll be looking at that. But I think when you look at the squad, what he's recruited over the last years, he'd be expected that he can go there and not be, probably his full strength at first 11 and still get wins and get to where they need to be, so that they're in a real good place coming, around that October mark, probably your first international. I think what's this end of September, is it? So it's really interesting to see that what he will do with them lads, because I feel that he will be looking at it and thinking, I've got to rest them, I've got to give them a chance so that they can be the ones who get him over the line in not only the Premier League but what we've just been talking about was in the Champions League as well.
It's interesting, this situation with Vinicius Junior, because there were some reports at the weekend that he'd agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Rock Nation, who represent the Real Madrid star, have released a statement hitting out fake news. They said Rock Nation Sports International and our entire team cannot stand idle when unprofessional and uninformed media publish fake and damaging information for attention-seeking purposes. This is especially unacceptable when it personally targets our clients without any foundation. It's disruptive, harmful and libelous, they say. Media outlets and journalists need to hold themselves more accountable. Now, if Vinicius Junior was that keen on a move to Arsenal, would his agency really have gone so strong in the statement?
No, I think. Look, they've been playing the game, haven't they? Let's be honest. I think Vinicius Junior wants to stay in Real Madrid. I think that's where he sees himself. He's probably using Arsenal to some extent to try and, get probably another 100 grand more on his already probably £1 million a week contract. So for me, Crookie, I think I'm expected that he's going to be staying at Real Madrid. I'll be very surprised if we see him in the Premier League and playing for Arsenal next year.
It's a real tall order, isn't it,
Yeah.
for any club in the Premier League to tempt a player from Real Madrid. I was speaking over the weekend. I think it was Darren Goff maybe who made the point, or maybe Tony Cascarino. Dennis Bergkamp in the mid-90s when he left Inter Milan. Serie A was the powerhouse then of European football. To join Arsenal was a real surprise. Would this be comparable?
I think it would be. Yeah, I think it's probably bigger at this moment in time because of where Real Madrid are and Arsenal and everything else. And but I think looking at it from an outsider, does Vinny Junior fit the Arsenal model and sort of the attitude? He is what I'd probably call a maverick, and does Mikel Arteta want somebody of his capabilities? Obviously brilliant on the field, but a lot of off the field issues come with him, and I think that's where I probably see the reason why I don't see it happening as much as what's being reported.
Arsenal fans, let us know your views on the new season. Do you need Vinicius Junior to kick you on and win that European Cup, or actually do you think you're better off without the Brazilian international? 03717 22 You can text us as well, 81089. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan in for White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Next up, we'll be looking back on the Commonwealth Games. Now, the Asian Football Confederation in the last couple of hours have come out and condemned Gianni Infantino's proposals to sell off
very late combinations, aren't they? They're all panicking.
Competitions. Well, they are. Obviously, UEFA have come out strongest by suggesting they would boycott all FIFA competitions, including the Men's and Women's World Cup, the Club World Cup. There's actually an Under-20 Women's World Cup that's due to start in September, so we may find out if they'll go through with that threat very soon. UEFA's 55 member associations held an emergency meeting earlier this week, and as I say, they voted a boycott if FIFA proceeds with plans to sell stakes in its competitions to private investors. There was a statement released by FIFA. I think it was 4 o'clock this morning, UK time, so we were all napping. They said nobody is selling football, but they did vow to continue with the controversial proposal to sell stakes in its competition to private investors. FIFA, in their statement, claimed the consultation process had been, quote, disrupted by incorrect media reports.
My answer to this is that everyone always screams about FIFA's a bit of a dictatorship, but it's actually a democracy whereby you still have to have all the nations vote for this through, Alex, right?
Yes.
So Infantino can't just force it through. It was never going to happen that way, and I think it's dead in the water now.
Well, I was just about to come on to that. So in order for this proposal to be passed, FIFA's 211 members would need to vote. Therefore, Infantino would need 106 votes in favour.
Yep.
UEFA and CONCACAF members combined make up 96 of those votes. The AFC makes up 47. So
that's how democracy works.
It's dead, basically.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It is dead.
Just bringing you up to date, shall we, the latest on Bruno Guimaraes and his potential move to Arsenal. He was due to report for training with the Newcastle squad in Spain today. Situation, as we understand it at talkSPORT, is that he has been delayed, but is still set to link up with his Newcastle colleagues later in the day. Arsenal still looking to finalise a potential £80 million transfer. Bruno Guimaraes, we're told by sources close to the player, is keen not to disrupt and also to be respectful to Newcastle. What do you make of all that, Kev?
Yeah, I think, look, it's really important that Newcastle get this right, especially with the new manager coming in. And I think that's probably why we haven't heard anything from the manager yet, because a lot of it would have been thrown about.
Do you think that's why they've delayed the announcement?
I think that's why they have, to try and get this out of the way, so it's all about him and his sort of press conference and about and him, and they want to just get that sorted. They need to get it done now, because it can't ponder on like it did with the Isak situation, last season. They've got to do it. If they've agreed that they're going to let him go, they've got to get the deal done and let the manager be able to then face the media, do his thing, and start talking and bringing positive news out of it.
Daniel Smith has got involved on the WhatsApp. To be fair, if Vinicius Junior to Arsenal actually did happen, it would surely be the most on-brand transfer in the history of football. The most insufferable player in the world joining the most insufferable club in the world.
Is he a Tottenham fan by any chance?
I think he might well be. Martin says, Arsenal don't need the Vinicius Junior circus. We have an all for one and one for all mentality in the squad. He would unbalance that. Fabulous player, but not worth the risk.
Yeah, and I think that's, I raised it last week when it sort of started, breaking that he's obviously a complex character. He his off the field stuff doesn't suit what probably an Arteta what he looks at. And I think they do go into all that great detail as well. Of what's the character of the person, what's he like, attitude, what's his his personality like. So I think sort of someone of like a Nico Williams would be perfect for an Arsenal. I think in that left hand side role, the Barcola, if you like, they're the ones who I thought sort of suit more of an Arsenal type player than what a Vinny Junior would.
And certainly Nico Williams, someone who's been on their list for a long time, but the Athletic Club Bilbao are not easy to negotiate with. But we will of course keep you up to date on the Vinicius Junior situation, all the other big breaking transfer stories. talkSPORT.com is the place to go. Let's talk Commonwealth Games now, shall we? Because it finished yesterday. Arsenal dominating the medal table. They won 70 golds, 16 more than the combined total of the UK nations. 171 medals overall. England finished second with 29 golds ahead of Canada and India. Scotland won 13 golds, 9 for Wales, 3 for Northern Ireland, who were 12th in the medal table. John Cushing has been giving us in-depth coverage throughout the games. Was it successful for the home nations, John?
I think that's a really good question, Alex. And Australia certainly dominated, as you say. I'm not sure whether that's good for the Commonwealth Games moving forward, to be brutally honest. But England, I think, have done really well. I think there were some amazing moments for England. Emily Campbell in the weightlifting, for example. Georgia Hunter-Bell on the track on Friday night in the 800 metres. She never looked like she was ever going to get beaten, which was incredibly impressive. But no medals, no individual gold medals for the able-bodied para swimming for the England swimming team. So the para swimming team did really well, winning golds, but no able-bodied England gold medal individual. So I think you kind of got to look at that. Adam Ramsey-Peaty obviously came with expectations of winning medals, and that didn't work as well. So look, I hope you can hear me because I'm at Glasgow Airport at the moment, about to fly out. It's been a brilliant games. Glasgow has really excelled itself, despite the whole city virtually being dug up with roadworks at the moment. They've delivered at the venues. People have come, more than 500,000, I think over 600,000 people have come and watched the games in person. Nearly 1 billion views across social media. 8 million Aussies have been watching on Channel 7 over there. And I think HBO Max have had their biggest ever viewing in the UK away from football with the Commonwealth Games. So I think Commonwealth Sport, who organised this, will be generally happy.
You mentioned the worldwide viewing figures. Obviously, it wasn't available on terrestrial television here. Usually, it will be shown on the BBC. Do you think that had a negative impact at all?
Not from what I saw, Alex. I think there are some people who maybe didn't find it, but I think in some ways, because I saw it a lot more on social media, and you might say, well, you would because you're covering the game, so your algorithms mean that you see a lot more of it than anybody else because of how these things work. But I saw BBC people in and covering these games just as much as they would have done if they were rights holders. I think TNT and HBO Max have done a really good job. They brought in different people, to different presenters, different experts, a different way of doing it. Like we did at talkSPORT. We had Christine Harugu, the Commonwealth champion, commentating on the athletics with Michael. We've had Adam Jamili, who was part of our Paris team. He popped up and gave us more details as well. Greg Rutherford he loves the Commonwealth Games, and I think giving these people a platform and giving them their views and allowing them to sort of say, look, these are world-class sports. Let's be honest. Do you remember that Tuesday night? The men's 100 metres, Emmanuel Esame, he broke the games record. He ran 9:80 in the pouring rain. It was an incredible experience to be there. And then Saturday night at Scotstoun, I mean, Josh Kerr is up there surely for Sports Personality of the Year this year, because he broke the world record 2 weeks ago in London, and the ground was shaking when I was in that stadium, that West Ham stadium, while watching that. It was the noisiest I've known it since 2012. And then to be at Scotstoun and see him win the mile, again, like Georgia Hunter-Bell, he was never going to lose that race, despite getting blocked in and coming into the bell, not in the greatest position. But as soon as he hit the front, he put the afterburners on. So that people have watched it, people have supported it, and I'm very proud to have been part of the talkSPORT coverage. And I think everybody else has done a really good job as well in telling these games. And look, there's history here because Glasgow staged it 12 years ago. I don't think we're going to see it in the UK for a very long time. India are up next. And then 2034, we think Nigeria, New Zealand, even South Africa may well be interested.
Only 10 events at these games. Do you think that enhanced it in any way?
I think it allowed for each sport to be the focus of attention a little bit. I felt during the Winter Olympics, having covered the Winter Olympics with talkSPORT this year, going there and you have 20 odd sports, while in the Summer Games you've got 25, 26 we had in Paris and even more in LA. And sometimes there's just too much going on and you don't know what's happening. But I felt with these Commonwealth Games, having 10 sports, it did actually allow for each one to be the centre of attention. I mentioned Emily Campbell. I went there on the Thursday afternoon at the Armadillo in the SEC Centre, and nothing else was happening but Emily Campbell weightlifting. And she broke her own Commonwealth record. She broke the Games record. She's now a double champion. And she got the coverage that she deserves. Even bowls, I called it the curling of the Commonwealth Games. I was there yesterday morning. Northern Ireland, you mentioned them. They won their 3rd gold medal in the men's pairs. And Gary Kelly, who carried the flag, he'd won a bronze in the singles, then did the pairs gold medal. He was in tears when he was talking to me. And bowls doesn't get any coverage apart from the Commonwealth Games. So I think the 10 sports did allow more of that. And also the fact that I think people were really pleased to see that 6 of those had para events. It was the biggest athletic event in the Commonwealth Games history, and that will only get bigger. But I mentioned India. They're going to go back to 17 sports, so it'll be a lot bigger. I think cricket will be part of that as well. We saw that in Birmingham when England women's cricket played. But I think we'll see the men and women playing cricket in the Commonwealth Games, like we are about to see in the LA Olympics in 2 years' time.
And just a final one from me, a word for Glasgow, how well they did hosting the tournament at such short notice?
Yeah, look, Glasgow stepped in with 18 months to go, and they've turned this around and delivered it. If you know, Alex, you are a lot more averse about what's going on in the sporting world than I am in terms of organisation and federations and FIFA and all that. If you lose your slot in the sporting calendar, then it's over. It's game over. And Glasgow stepped up 18 months ago and said, we can deliver this for £150 million. I mean, it's a minuscule amount of money compared to what Birmingham was, 700 million 4 years ago. But they have protected this week in the sporting calendar, and the sole focus of the sporting world pretty much has been on these Commonwealth Games. And then we're going to go to see the swimmers go to the European Championships back in Paris next week. We've got the European Athletics in Birmingham next week as well. But Glasgow stepped up. They've delivered. Some people will say it was never the same, or it won't be the same. And it was never meant to be. It was supposed to be something different. And the people have got behind it. And I think it's been a games that people will remember. But as I say, I think it's time for somebody else to take on the Commonwealth baton. And I think that's what Commonwealth sport want. They want other nations to now step up.
Great stuff, John. And thanks for your sterling efforts throughout the games. Really good coverage here on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2 as well. Minister Paul has said, please don't overlook Yasmin Sawyer's goal in the long jump. And I might have just talked my way into clips of the week. Apparently, I said that Arsenal, not Australia, came top of the medals table. Arsenal on the brain. Next up, Kev and I will be looking at the latest regarding Gianni Infantino's future as FIFA president. It's looking dicey. Let's bring in Terry Gibson, Spanish football expert. Terry, always good to speak to you. Lots of news stories over in Spain at the moment. Let's start with that Marcus Rashford farewell post to Barcelona. Looks like his hopes of return to the Camp Nou are now very much over.
Yes, it does, and I think it was a blow to him when Anthony Gordon. It must have been kind of awkward when the England team met up for the World Cup when Anthony Gordon had already completed his move to Barcelona. Marcus Rashford's future was hanging in the air. And then they signed Karim Adeyemi. So it's not going to happen now for Marcus Rashford. I have to be honest, I'm really surprised. I thought it was a good value in terms of the transfer fee. And I thought his form last season was as good as you would expect. And he couldn't have done any more. He scored some important goals. He actually effectively got the goal that won them the league title. He was popular with his teammates and popular with the fans. So I'm surprised. Even when Anthony Gordon signed, I still thought there was a possibility that Rashford would still go. But the signing of Adeyemi has put a stop to that.
Is it just wages? Because obviously Anthony Gordon would command a much lower weekly salary than Rashford.
But he was £80 million. Rashford was 26.
Yeah.
So 26 million, slightly difference in their ages as well. People are forgetting they've got Rafinha that plays there as well. So the problem positions that everyone thought they had, and they still have, are centre forward, Lewandowski leaving the club, and they should have bought a better centre back than what they currently have.
Talk Sport.
1 minute past 11. Good morning. The pressure continues to mount on Gianni Infantino. The FA are following the Welsh FA's example in sending a letter to withdrawing their support for FIFA's president. Here's talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs.
My expectation is UEFA and CONCACAF are prepared to unite, back one candidate, but hope in the meantime that these withdrawals of votes and or a potential vote of no confidence forces Infantino to walk before he's pushed.
UEFA and CONCACAF combining would total 90 votes against Infantino. The magic number is 106 for another candidate to replace him. Jeff Stelling's not as convinced as many others that Infantino's ousting is a matter of when, not if.
While Europe and the Americas have turned to Infantino, not everyone has. For instance, Africa's governing body, that's remained pretty silent. A lot of Asian nations as well are yet to play their hand. We're yet to find out really where they stand.
Elsewhere, Newcastle United have signed goalkeeper Lucas Hornacek from Braga for 25.7 million. Bruno Guimaraes, meanwhile, is late to La Manga pre-season gathering, but the club say he's on his way today and has just been delayed. He's still expected to join Arsenal this summer. Manchester United women's manager has left his role by mutual consent. Mark Skinner won the club's first major women's honour with the FA Cup in 2024, but led them to 12th in the WSL last season. And Solly March has told talkSPORT his former Brighton teammate Danny Welbeck is a very shrewd Chelsea signing.
Helping young players, helping them develop, helping the team on the training pitch, demanding the levels every day. So I think he'll do really well for them. I really do. And I think as well, I think he'll want to go and play. I think he'll want to get minutes because I think he can still score goals like you've seen last season. So yeah, I think it's a good move for everyone.
Stay right up to date with all the latest comings and goings on the talksport.com live blog.
talkSPORT News.
Reforms say they'll bring in the Royal Navy to tackle small boat crossings, and new heat warnings have kicked into place across most of England this morning. Sinead has more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, where we've got a wider range of premium tyres than Britain has rainy days. Visit your local centre or book at quickfit.com today.
Still no rainy days in the south. Very hot and dry. Cloudier further north and west. Some outbreaks of rain, particularly across Scotland.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan with you all the way through until 1 o'clock on this Monday morning. A little bit more on the Bruno Guimaraes situation. I've been told by Newcastle sources their captain left Brazil on Sunday as agreed with the club, flew overnight and is due to arrive in Spain shortly. This, of course, against the backdrop of Arsenal trying to complete what we understand would be an £80 million transfer. Let's talk FIFA, shall we? It's been an incredible few days for the president, Gianni Infantino. His leadership, I think, very much now is on the line. He's been questioned by governing bodies in Europe, North and Central America and the Caribbean. UEFA and CONCACAF both releasing statements on Saturday criticising Infantino's leadership at the world governing body. We've had a statement from the Welsh FA saying they withdraw their support for Infantino in the upcoming presidential elections. We're expecting a similar stance from the English FA as well. He's a dead man walking, isn't he, Kev Nolan? It's over.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've not been a fan of this fella since he come in from Sepp, if I'm honest, and you didn't think it could get any worse with Sepp Blatter, and then all of a sudden this guy's taking it to new and extreme levels, and I think he's got to be taken. You know, when you think about it and what's happened, I think UEFA have been brilliant with the way they've come out and they've sort of stuck to the guns and thought, you know what, we're not happy with a lot of things what's going on within the FIFA presidency and what's going on within FIFA, and they've stood up to him. I think this is good. And it's good for the world game, and it's he's made it like a little civil war within the footballing world, hasn't he? And it's not nice to see, but I'm just glad that we're getting to the right side of it anyway.
Is it better late than never in terms of UEFA and the FA finally standing out against Infantino? I mean, UEFA started to hit back after Donald Trump, the US president, intervened to get Flo Balogun suspension overturned. Luckily, justice was done. USA got hammered by Belgium, but I mean, that was described to me at the time as one of the most shameful episodes in the history of the World Cup.
Yeah, and I think that's where, I mean, it all come to light, didn't it? And I think that's where everybody, not only just people in the footballing world, everybody who wanted to see all. I mean, look, I thought when I was actually watching the game, I know it was a late kick-off, I was watching the game, and I thought it was unlucky that he got sent off. I thought it was, the way he wanted to sort of get his body involved, but and you can see it both ways. When it's slowed down, it always looks 10 times worse. So I did see the sort of, it could have went either way, but when I realised that he was going to be available for the next game, then you're looking at it thinking, come on, now we're in the possibility of people, who are not. I know he's the president of the United States, but to then come out and say that he's spoken to him personally, and then all of a sudden he's been, re-entered to the squad and be able to play in the next game I actually can't find the words if I'm quite honest, Crookie. I thought it was just shameful, really, for the whole of the football.
Shout out to my colleague Ben Jacobs on this. He was right across this towards the back end of last week. The first report that Infantino's position was under real threat. The latest he sent in this morning, you can see it at talksport.com. The English FA will write to Gianni Infantino to withdraw its letter of support ahead of March's FIFA presidential election.
So, yeah.
The initial endorsement is understood to have been sent before the recent World Cup. The move is part of a UEFA-wide alignment with Alexander Ceferin, the UEFA president, pushing for a blanket withdrawal of support for Infantino from members' associations. The Welsh FA have removed their support. They pointed to failures in good governance, processes, leadership, values, stakeholder management, communication and sound judgment. So quite a scathing statement from the Welsh FA. CONCACAF have also come down hard on Infantino. They carry a further 41 votes. Their president, Victor Montagliani, is now considering whether to stand against Infantino at the next election. talkSPORT understands it's highly likely several CONCACAF members will also revoke their Infantino endorsements. We had David Bernstein, former chairman of the FA, on breakfast this morning, and he stuck the boot into Infantino as well.
I think he's a sort of a dead man. I describe as a dead man staggering, as opposed to walking. I think so, but I think, I was very delighted that UEFA took such a tough stand and put a red line that they would not participate in the World Cup unless this proposal was withdrawn. I think they should extend that and say they would not play in the World Cup if Infantino continues as president.
I mean, that's basically what UEFA have said, isn't it? David Bernstein there, thanks for his time this morning. But UEFA went really strong with their initial statement. They said they would boycott the World Cup if Infantino progressed with his plans to sell off stakes in its competitions to private investment companies. David Bernstein saying there that the FA actually should go one further now and say, unless Infantino stands down or is forced to resign, we won't play in the World Cup.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the stance what's got to be taken now. I don't think they can now they've got the march on them. I think they've got to go full tilt and really stick the boot in, if you like, and as you said there, the dead man staggering, not walking. Get him out now and let's get a bit of justice back with all this injustice what's been going on in the last month or so with him and what he's trying to do.
He was asked during that interview, David Bernstein, about Arsene Wenger's relationship with Infantino. I think he gave a no-comment answer to that question, but we know that Wenger, FIFA's chief of global football development, has become quite close to Infantino over the last few years. The fact he's not spoken out, the former Arsenal manager, is that damaging his reputation?
Of course it is. I think he's got to come out now and sort of, distance himself away from what Infantino's been trying to do and talk about it. But possibly because he's obviously still within FIFA and underneath him, he probably feels that the time's probably not for now. But I'm sure that we'll be hearing from Mr. Wenger at some point in that regarding all this what's been going on over the last few weeks.
Could this be a complete sea change where UEFA and the FA, they show their teeth against FIFA a bit more than maybe they have done in the last couple of decades?
I think it should. I think we probably didn't realise how much power they had until now, and I think now they've got to sort of show it the way it is. I think when you go to a UEFA tournament or when you're a part of a UEFA tournament, it feels like you're at a football tournament. Yeah. Well, with a lot of the stuff what went on in America, I know you were out there, Crookie, and you were having the time of your life. With your hat.
I wasn't necessarily all about the football, but I'll be honest.
Exactly, and I think that, but it feels like it's more of, it's more of a production and everything else what comes with it. It didn't, for me, when I'm looking at it from TV and stuff like that, it didn't feel, whenever I feel like there's a FIFA World Cup coming on, it doesn't feel like it's just all about the football. It feels like there's everything else, and these breaks within the game of on the 22nd minute and the 70th minute and in the second half, it all felt like it was going the wrong way for me, and I'm glad that UEFA have gone, no, we're not having them breaks. We're not having them breaks, the water breaks, all that type of stuff. This is how we see it. This is football. This is and the keeping the the love of the game in the right way.
Do you know my overriding emotion from the World Cup is that actually Infantino and Trump and FIFA, they got bowed out because the American hospitality was brilliant.
Yeah,
the games by and large were terrific, particularly the knockout rounds.
I enjoyed it.
Messi at the age of 39, turned up and brought his A game. All the big guns showed up in terms of the race for the Golden Boot, but that in some ways masked all those other issues that you've talked about, the ticket prices, the hydration breaks, which basically were glorified advert breaks for the American television companies, the Flo Balogun disgrace, in my opinion. And I think he'd have got away with it, Infantino, but the power went to his head, and then he's come up with this ridiculous plan to sell off stakes in competitions, and that was the final straw.
Yeah, and I think it's the best thing what could have ever happened, because with him being and him thinking that, and look, I enjoyed it. I've got on with you, Crookie. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the games.
But we enjoyed it in spite of Infantino and Donald Trump.
And I don't think it was anything to do with what they had done or put in place. I think it was more to do with the footballers turning up, the coaches turning up, the managers, the teams who have never been to World Cups turning up, the Cape Verdes.
Yeah.
So all them, it was like, it was brilliant on that extent. As you said, the people who you want going for the Golden Boot, all that type of stuff. Leo Messi, all that. It was mad, obviously, in the final and everything else, but we won't go on about that. But I just think they got off with it because of all the off the field things, what they had brought into the game, and I think when he then tries to go one step further, he's now been shot down really and gone, no, you took it too far now, and you already had the backs up. Now I think they just gone, no, we've got to stick together here and keep the beautiful game going the way it should be.
Yeah, well, to quote former colleague Mark Saggers after England lost to Iceland in 2016, he was talking about Roy Hodgson, but the same sentiment I think resonates here. Infantino, we've had enough of you, fella. Sling your hook.
Love it.
an amazing story, actually. It's almost a forgotten man. This is about Mykhailo Mudryk, who has been allowed to come back to football immediately for Chelsea. So you'll remember that this is a man who had a 4-year ban handed down to him for breaching anti-doping rules. He's not played since November 2024 after what was described as an adverse finding of meldonium, which is a banned substance in his system. He appealed against that sentence to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who have today said that because he accepted breaking anti-doping rules, they have agreed that the time served already is enough of a punishment. So Mykhailo Mudryk is available to play for Chelsea with immediate effect.
Can he even still play football? Is he good enough? He's not played football for 3 years.
Nearly 2 years. Well, Chelsea have released quite a long statement today, obviously welcoming the decision. They've talked about what a difficult period of time it has been for Mykhailo Mudryk. And I think this is the important paragraph here in the statement. We welcome the acknowledgement that advances in the applicable scientific reporting standards for more reliable testing mean that had Misha's sample been analysed under today's technical requirements, it would not have been reported as a positive test and no anti-doping rule violation would have resulted. That is an important part of the context surrounding the agreed resolution and allows everyone involved to move forward.
You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. We've already spent a lot of the programme debating Newcastle and Arsenal and their chance of going back-to-back in the Premier League. And, of course, the very latest on FIFA with Gianni Infantino now treading the finest of lines before surely eventually being ousted as FIFA president. Stay tuned to talksport.com and our YouTube channel for the very latest on that. I want to talk Chelsea now, if I can. They avoided sporting sanctions last week for breaching agent payment regulations. Chelsea fined £10 million and given a suspended ban from registering new players for 2 transfer windows. This punishment is a result of breaching rules relating to payments to agents between 2009 and 2022. The club also received a 6-point deduction, but that's been suspended until June the 30th, 2027 and set aside on appeal. It comes after owners Todd Bowley and Clearlake self-reported, Kev, 74 breaches of FA rules when they purchased the club in 2022. They admitted making £47 million in secret payments to unregistered agents and third parties over transfers between 2011 and 2018. Now, there's 2 schools of thoughts on this. One is that Chelsea and Todd Bowley and Clearlake deserve credit for self-reporting, and that's why they've not been hit with any sporting sanctions. Two, if you look at what they won under Roman Abramovich during 2011 and 2018, there will be people who say, actually, sporting sanctions here are justified because they cheated the system.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? What sort of everybody will be sort of looking at and thinking, well, they were able to find a way to cheat the system, to get around it. But then obviously when the new owners come in and they've looked at everything and they've looked at all the financials, they've put it forward. And I think that's why you sort of see the punishment, what they've got here now. Whether you can take away what happened between the 2011-2018 season from Chelsea is another thing. I don't think you possibly can now, and it probably doesn't matter to them. But yeah,
does it put an asterisk over some of the achievements under Roman Abramovich?
I think it should. I think it certainly should, because again, we were talking about Newcastle, and how they've got all the money in the world to be able to buy and do whatever they want, but they've had to stick to FFP. What Chelsea have done, they haven't, and with that they would gain success. So I think there's got to be some sort of asterisk, as you said, and a question of how did that happen? Because again, it's only since Todd Bowley and Clearlake come in that this has come up, or would they have got away with it?
Another big story, Chelsea related over the weekend, was Mikhailo Mudryk cleared to play football again. That after the Court of Arbitration for Sport partially upheld his appeal against a 4-year doping ban. The Ukraine international has not played competitively since November of 2024. He was provisionally suspended by the FA the month after that, after returning an adverse finding for banned substance meldonium. He was subsequently given the maximum 4-year ban by the FA, but appealed against the decision to CAS, that's Court of Arbitration for Sport, not Tony Cascarino. CAS ruled Mudryk can return to competition with immediate effect after accepting breaking anti-doping rules and agreed to a suspension equal to the time already served. It does raise the question, what does the future hold for Mikhailo Mudryk? Well, let's hear from talkSPORT's Ukrainian football correspondent Andrew Todos. He was on the Transfer Insiders, and he believes Xabi Alonso has a long-standing interest in Mudryk.
Xabi Alonso joined Bayer Leverkusen in October 2022. That's previous summer, a few months before Bayer Leverkusen really wanted to buy Mikhailo Mudryk. So he didn't get him then, and he wasn't his manager then. Potentially now he might be able to do something. And it seems under Xabi Alonso there might be a bit more stability and everything. And as a result of that, Mudryk might actually benefit from that, rather than a manager who's sort of fully focused on results and not embedding sort of a new style and all that kind of thing. That has been the case in those first 2 years after Mudryk initially joined, before his ban. And it's going to be, I think, really, really intriguing the next couple of weeks to see how obviously his teammates receive him again. I've seen a lot of them on social media being very happy, and also how the coaching staff do as well.
Yeah, fascinating situation, isn't it, with Mikhailo Mudryk, because we know there is interest from other Premier League clubs and indeed clubs around Europe. Coventry City being linked with a move for Mudryk. Obviously, Frank Lampard will be aware of his talents from previous spells in charge at Stamford Bridge. Where do you see his future? Do you think he can revive his Chelsea career under Xabi Alonso, or would a fresh start benefit him?
Well, I think obviously it will feel like a fresh start, because he's got someone who probably has looked at him in the past and gone, yeah, I quite like to work with this kid and see how good he is. When he was at Leverkusen, he had that spell there, Alonso. So he chose to go to Chelsea. Now Alonso's the manager, so I'm sure he's had conversations with him, and between the two, they'll come up with something which I think is probably, he's going to give him an opportunity to sort of revitalise his Chelsea career, and that's the biggest thing for him. He's got an opportunity with someone who's looked at him and gone, yeah, you've got ability, so let me see it up close and personal now from when I've seen it, from afar in previous years.
Just looking at Chelsea's business, obviously Alonso coming in as their permanent manager. He signed a 4-year contract. They lost 2-1 against 10-man Tottenham in a pre-season friendly in Sydney, but I know you'll tell me that pre-season results don't count for too much. Danny Welbeck has signed a 2-year deal. Jordan Henderson, as we understand it, has already put pen to paper on a deal of the same length. It's a bit of a dad's army, isn't it? Gathering at Stamford Bridge. But can you?
It's a bit hard to call it dad's army, and they're only 36. What are we then?
Yeah, well,
we're granddad's army.
We're granddad's army, absolutely. But can you see the sense in these signings, just in terms of character in the dressing room? And actually, Welbeck, for the last 2 years, has scored plenty of goals for Brighton.
Yeah, I think with what Alonso's probably looking to instill, I should say, in this squad and what he wants. You know, he had a Xhaka when he went to Leverkusen. He took him, and he was like his on-field coach, and I think that's and run the dressing room, run the training ground, set the standards for all them youngsters, and I think that's what probably Chelsea's been needed. You know, you've got two lads who've got Danny Welbeck come from one of the biggest clubs in the world, in Manchester United, and sort of in the last couple of years revitalised himself, should we say, at Brighton.
Knows João Pedro well.
They had a fantastic relationship there, so he'll know that. And then Jordan Henderson, who we all know what he done at Liverpool and had a fantastic career there. Come back to Brentford last year and played a major part in them having a really, really strong season. So, and I think what it is, it's not just what they can provide on the pitch, it's what they can provide off the pitch and show these young lads the right way and the right career path to take and the right choices. Because a lot of the lads, although they're earning lots and lots of money, they don't see probably what success is yet. And you've got two lads who've probably, who've won the title, know what it's like to win titles, played in Champions League year in, year out. So, and you can see what Danny's done, at Brighton as well, getting them back to Europe and being one of the main players in doing that.
They've also taken set piece coach Austin McPhee from Aston Villa. He's linked up with the Chelsea squad during pre-season in Hong Kong. Is that a shrewd appointment? I mean, he comes with a huge reputation, Austin McPhee.
Yeah, of course it is. It's a great appointment for them because I was saying this last week. Me and Nev, I believe Paul Nevin was one of the best that I've worked with underneath in terms of his detail and everything else in all the set pieces, and it helped us certainly. At West Ham when we were being successful in Europe and in the Premier League, to be top of the table defensively and then top of the table offensively is a massive thing. So he's obviously looked at that. Young lads who need guidance, who need to know what's expected of them in every set piece situation, and Austin's probably one of the biggest names out there who sort of gets the calls, if you like, to being one of the top ones. I think his hair does that a lot as well. He likes to be on the line with all his movement,
the Viking
else. Yeah. So look, it's a shrewd appointment, and I think Alonso would have been looking at it and thinking, I need to be top in both.
Where do you see Chelsea this season? Morgan Rogers, British record signing. Maxence Lacroix, 52 million. Mark Palestra has come in as well. Giovanni Quenda, Emmanuel Amiga. Yeah. Do you see them as possible title contenders with no Champions League football, no European football of any sort?
I think that's what it is for me, Crookie. I think, it helped Michael when he went into Manchester United, and I think we're going to have a similar sort of look at Chelsea this year, where Alonso's going to have a lot of time on the training pitch to help these lads and what he wants and get his ideas across. And I feel with the signings that they've made, they'll be a real good force in this league. And I think Rodgers and Lacroix certainly, good really Premier League. Lacroix was fantastic for Crystal Palace, in his time there. So I think he's a really shrewd signing for him, as well as the other two we talked about earlier, and then the lads who we probably don't know much about, but ones who've got really good potential to come and start in the Premier League.
A bit of breaking news from the Champions League draw. Celtic have been paired with the Austrian champions LASK in their Champions League playoff round. Not the worst draw that Martin O'Neill's side could have got. We'll find out who Brighton will face in the Conference League playoffs later this afternoon as well. Ewan has got in touch on WhatsApp. He said, with the Chelsea punishment, they should face sanctions if teams like Sheffield Wednesday have to take deductions for any new owner coming in that didn't do it. That's a really good point, actually. Luke says, on the Chelsea thing, they should have been relegated with a points deduction. That would have meant West Ham would have stayed up. And here's Mark. Crookie, you're so bitter. Just because Chelsea had a lot of success, we don't care about asterisks. We're only bothered about the team on the pitch. How we got there is no importance. Get over it, Crookie. I'm still not overbeating you in the Champions League final in 2008. This is talkSPORT.
take a very quick call on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oliver is a Liverpool fan. Morning, Oliver.
Morning, how you doing, lad? You all right?
Yeah,
All right,
really good,
Oliver.
mate, yeah. Would you like to see Trent back?
All good. I'd absolutely love to see Trent back. I think Mo Salah missed him very much last season. Obviously, Salah had a pretty poor season last season, but when he come back with Real Madrid, it was very frosty, and I think the damage is being done, to be honest with you, but I would love to see him back in a Liverpool shirt, yeah.
Look, there's no doubt. Nobody can doubt his quality. On the ball, he's as good as anything, anywhere.
He was winning games from right back. Obviously the Barcelona game in 2019, that cross, and then I think he was very, very important when we won the league with Slot as well. So much quality, from right back.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, brilliant. I think a lot of Liverpool fans would share that view. They'd all love to see Trent back. Oliver, thanks very much indeed.
Maybe Jeff as well. Thanks, Oliver. You wonder though whether the player, having not really done it at Real Madrid, would want to sort of maybe at least stick around for another 6 months to see exactly where he figures and where he fares. He'll know pretty soon. As players, you get the vibe whether or not you're on you're part of the in club or whether you're on the outside of it.
talkSPORT News.
Good morning. With your headlines, I'm Sinead Garvan. Reform UK say they'll use the Royal Navy to tackle migrant crossings if they get into power. The plan would be to pick them up and drop them back to northern France. John Vine is a former independent chief inspector of borders and immigration, and he says it's not that easy.
I wonder what the French think about this then. Presumably, Reform think that they're able to sort of moor a boat in a French harbour, tell everybody to get off and then sail away again back to the UK.
Labour say Reform are using this policy as a distraction technique. Meanwhile, Reform UK's deputy leader Richard Tice is being investigated by parliamentary authorities. It's over whether he declared an interest when discussing Israel in a Westminster Hall debate. The investigation was opened last Tuesday. A 9-year-old girl died after being found seriously injured at an industrial estate in Arbroath. A 35-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the schoolgirl's death, which is being treated as suspicious. And heat alerts are in force for most of England as temperatures are forecast to reach the mid-30s. That'll be hotter than the Greek islands of Mykonos, Rhodes and Santorini.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For professional grade sealants with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
Bruno G is missing in action, but Newcastle aren't worried yet, and Man United have lost their women's head coach. Max has more at midday.
Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan, the former Newcastle, West Ham and Bolton midfielder, with you until 1 o'clock this afternoon when Paul and Andy make their return to the airwaves. Delighted now, though, to say we're joined by Dan Towse from BetMGM as we catch up on all the latest odds.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. GambleAware.org.
Well, he joined us on Friday as always, and he's back on a Monday as well. We are truly privileged, Dan. You didn't have anywhere better to be this morning.
I've got to have a look at people's time off, Crookie. They're taking too much time in August. So, yeah, I'm on tomorrow as well. So you're going to have me and Friday. So 3 times this week.
Well, I won't be here Friday. I'll be on my own much-earned holiday, but I'll be with you tomorrow. The Scottish Premiership season got underway at the weekend. An underwhelming start for Rangers on Friday night, held to a draw. Celtic have the opportunity to take an early edge in the title race as they host Dundee.
They do, yeah. Just one round of the fixtures, and Celtic's 2 closest rivals from last season have already dropped points. As you mentioned, Rangers held to 1-1 draw at Dundee United, and Hearts, who were 1-0 up until, I think, the 89th minute, went on to lose 2-1 at Aberdeen. So before Celtic have even kicked a ball, the market's already reacted. Celtic, who were 4-5, are now 4-6 to retain the title. Rangers drifting out to 8-5, and Hearts, despite their incredible season last year, albeit we know that Derek McInnes has now joined Rangers, they are now all the way up to 14-1.
And I think you wanted to put a bit of focus on some of the pre-season results from over the weekend.
Yeah, I did. I know you've just touched on it just before I joined. I mean, there's no real movement in the outright prices despite a weekend of pre-season action. Saturday, Chelsea went 2-1 down to Spurs and reduced to 10 men. Tonali getting off the mark for his new club, first goal in a Spurs shirt, and Richarlison getting the winner in added time. Maresca's first game in the dugout ended in defeat on penalties. They drew 1-1 with John Stones' new club, Inter Milan, but they lost 3-1 on a penalty shootout. But as wins for your beloved Man United, they beat Atletico 2-1, and Mbeumo getting 2 goals, and Arsenal strolled to a 4-1 win away at Girona. And despite being 2-0 down, Leeds went on to beat Liverpool. I mean, look, I think Kevin just mentioned it is pre-season. Like I said, nothing's really changed in the market, but you just mentioned Chelsea about 5 minutes ago. The signings they've made, no European football. Do you think they could be Arsenal's nearest challengers this year?
I think that's one of the biggest things, isn't it? Whether Alonso can get his ideas across with him having that time on the grass. I really believe that they will be thereabouts come the Champions League places. I'm not too sure. I think it might be just a bit too too early, I should say, for them to be challenging as title contenders. But I would certainly put them in the Champions League places.
I think it's really interesting because Aston Villa, am I right in saying Aston Villa is still a shorter price than Tottenham to finish in the top 6 down, or has that changed?
That's Tottenham 11-10, Aston Villa 6-5.
Right. Okay, I think Tottenham at 11-10 with the signings they've made with Roberto De Zerbi, obviously first pre-season under his belt. I'd be surprised if they don't finish in the top 6 Spurs, and that that's coming from a position of 17th in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think them getting over the line was massive for them. I think they've had a fantastic summer. Even the likes of Andy Robertson. You can go on about all the major signings they made, but Andy Robertson's going to be a big signing for them. A winner, a Premier League winner. So I think that helps certainly, and I think he's had some really good signings. So again, with obviously no European football, having the time on the grass, I think they've got to be thinking that they can challenge for them Champions League places, certainly with the money they've spent.
How do you feel about your beloved Brighton this season, Dan, now that Danny Welbeck has moved on? They need a bit of firepower, don't they, in attack?
They do, and a little bit, conference draw in 22 minutes, and there's some big teams in there with the likes of Ajax still to qualify, Panathinaikos, etc. The only thing I'm concerned about, Crook, is the depth of squad. We talked about it on Friday, that actually teams' performance in the year that they play European football, I think over half of them finished in a lower league position to the year before. So I think, do I want us to win a trophy? 1,000,000%, and the Europa Conference gives us a massive chance to do that. But I'd like to see a couple more coming through the door. Yeah, Solly March was on the breakfast show this morning. Disappointing to see him go, but totally understand the club's reasons. But he was still a very, very good player for us. And yeah, like you said, Mr. Welbeck going to Chelsea, I'm not quite sure where the goals are going to come from at the moment. But I remain an optimist, Crookie. And if we finish top 10 and win the Europa Conference, I'll be more than happy.
Just surprised that the Solly March one. I think obviously with the Europe
injuries, I think
with the conference, but I just think with having them, having them squad players and having the
let
squad,
and he's done.
Well, exactly. Yeah, so they've lost a lot of the quality, the top end players, haven't they? With Van Eyck going to Tottenham as well. So I think, but what I do and what I think Brighton have always got right is that they've got the right people to come in and they're ready to come in. So I'm sure that you'll see quite a bit of activity coming in the door from them in the coming weeks.
And you're of the belief, because we were talking about this off air, that any English team in the Conference League should go deep, if not win it.
Yeah, I truly believe that. Once we won it again at West Ham, and then you see the quality of our league, we should be winning the Conference League every year. And then what it does give you, an opportunity then to go and pit your wits against the Europa League and that next level. And again, You know, Villa winning it last year, I don't see why we shouldn't be winning them and getting to finals in all of the European competitions. Now, I believe that this is the strongest league in the world and in Europe. So we should have teams going to finals, semi-finals in all of the competitions.
No doubt if Brighton do go all the way in the Conference League, wherever the final is, Dan will be there in the hospitality lounge, quaffing his free champagne.
You've got to take Crookie with that because he'll get you in, mate. Even if he hasn't got a ticket.
I can't believe, by the way, Dan, we've done a whole betting section here and you've not scripted my 16 winners out of 40 at Glorious Goodwood.
I was bored of the text messages coming from. I'm not sure the listeners wanted to hear it either. But yeah, good. I mean, very impressive to get that many winners. There was a few shorties that went in there, but to do that over the 5 days is fairly impressive. And judging by your picture on Facebook with you laid across the winning line on Saturday night, it looked like you had a very good week
with the cowboy hat. I mean, it must have been a painful one for the bookies, wasn't it? With so many favourites delivering.
It was. It got a little bit better, but yeah, it wasn't the greatest Goodwoods we've ever had. But I thought, I mean, I love Glorious Goodwood. I think it's a fantastic festival. It's always seen a little bit second rate to your likes of Royal Ascot, etc. But no, it's all in all, it's a very good festival, and we're looking forward to it again next year.
Yeah, roll on this time in 12 months. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Cheers,
appreciate it as always.
Thanks, gents.
That was a look at the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Just before we hit the break, Kev, I want to speak to you about Jude Bellingham taking a minority shareholding in the 100 franchise Birmingham Phoenix. He'll take a 1.2% share of the equity. Half of this amount has been sold by Warwickshire County Cricket Club and the other half by affiliates of Knighthead. As a result, Warwickshire County Cricket Club maintains majority control with 50.4% and Knighthead holding 48.4%. Bellingham watched Birmingham Phoenix beat the Welsh Fire on Saturday. Is this a genius PR move by the England international?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, he loves the city, doesn't he? You know, that's his city. That's his. You know, I think he's always said he's been a keen admirer of cricket as well. So I can see why he's done it. You know, to feel, you know, where his roots are, where he feels that he can help and he can help. You know, build the brand, if you like, and be part of that. And yeah, it's always nice when you see these lads, you know, going back to the home cities and helping, you know, the you know, different sport as well.
He was at the Birmingham friendly against Barcelona, as well, wearing the new Birmingham shirt for the season. He's very much a son of Birmingham, isn't he? And stays true to his roots.
I think, yeah, you know, obviously when he broke onto the scene in them early years, you know, you never know whether he's going to go on and create, you know, all the hype what was around him and go and do it. And what he's done it brilliantly with, you know, good head on his shoulders. You know, he's had his moments, no doubt, and as young lads you learn from them, and I think he has. You know, in the World Cup I thought he was excellent. You know, I think sometimes, you know, when you've had a break from the game in terms of injury and everything else, gives you a little bit of time to refocus and have a look, and he certainly did that, and he was, you know, one of the main contenders for being our player of the tournament, if you like, for me, in terms of what he done and what he produced for us. He was excellent. So yeah, look, it's really good. I really like the 100. I like the 2020. I get to see a lot of it being from Nottingham and everything else. So being a real sports city, again, Birmingham the same. And yeah, it's nice to see him investing in his own town club.
Obviously, Harry Kane is shorter in the bookies' eyes to win the Ballon d'Or, but is Jude Bellingham now ahead of Kane, do you think, as the biggest brand in English football because he plays for Real Madrid?
I think so, yeah. I think, you know, Harry, obviously, that might change a bit when if as we all believe, should collects the Ballon d'Or. I think that might change and sway back into his favour again. But at this moment in time, I think when you're talking about all the England players, I think, you know, Jude Bellingham would be the first name you probably hear throughout the world and across Europe because of his ties to Real Madrid, because of what he's done at World Cups and European competitions. So yeah, look, he's a fantastic player, and we're lucky to have him, and that's why we should look after him. You know, and not have a go with him a lot, like a lot of people seem to do before the tournament. And I was really pleased that he was able to shut up a few of them people.
Yeah, he certainly did. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Time to talk transfers in the next part of the programme as news begins to emerge from the North East that Arsenal are now in direct talks with the Magpies over Bruno Guimaraes. you noticed that on social media, Curtis Jones liked the posts where Inter Milan announced Stones as a player.
He's acting like a spoiled brat. I saw his behaviour last night on the pitch.
This was after the friendly.
Yeah, I understand the frustration that he should have got the armband. He's been, he's a scouser. He's been there 20 years. Blah 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 blah. But to act like that and for it to carry on, because it went on for about 2 minutes.
Was it him and Dominic Szoboszlai?
Yeah, he was having a go at Szoboszlai, who handed the armband over, I think, to Tsimikas, and I believe Curtis Jones had the temper tantrum over that. It's just like that behaviour can't happen. Not from a graduate from the academy. He's too into himself. So if he wants to go,
source of his frustration not so much the captain's armband in a pre-season friendly, it's the fact he wants to leave, is it?
Yeah, okay, so he wants to leave. Well, okay, now Liverpool have to get the best deal for the football club. That's how it works, okay? You don't get to throw your toys out of the pram and do it slowly, knowing him, and then act like that. I just don't understand it. You're playing for one of the biggest football clubs in the world. You came through the system. Behave. Stop. That's all eyes are on you. That's not behind closed doors. That might go on in training and all those things, but you don't want to see that going on actually for millions of people to watch.
And it's not great for Andoni Iraola, fresh in the manager's.
No, and I'm sure he'll move past that. And I think Szoboszlai was asked in the press conference, and he didn't even talk about it. But it's just you hate seeing stuff like that. I really do. I think it's so petulant. Do you know what I mean? So, and then when you're liking Inter Milan's post, okay, we get it. You want to go to Inter Milan, probably last 5 minutes out there.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan here on talkSPORT. Time to round up the latest transfer stories, all in association with talkSPORT.com. First up, Lukas Hornacek completing his move from Braga to Newcastle. The Magpies activating his £25.7 million release clause. He's 6'6". Is he coming in, Kev, to be the new number one ahead of Nick Pope?
It seems that way, doesn't it? I think, obviously Eddie always threw his weight behind Nick Pope, and he was sort of deemed as his number one and his guy whenever he felt like he was going through a bit of a tricky time. Pope would be his number one in the moment. So, but for this to happen so quickly after Eddie leaving the club, and I think obviously with us what we know now, the last couple of weeks, it's obviously been going on and rumbling on throughout it. They've had him as one of their go-to guys and seeing him as the number one in the future. So very interesting whether the new incoming manager, I don't know how to pronounce it yet. So Matthias Jaisler. With him coming in, as he had a sort of little bit of an impact to say he wanted that type of goalkeeper. So interesting times.
On the subject of Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes not yet reported for pre-season training in Spain. We were told by Newcastle sources early this morning that he flew from Brazil overnight due to touchdown anytime soon. No
Well, in
sooner did we
London.
get that news than Arsenal make a direct approach, we understand, with Newcastle for their captain. This deal is going to happen, isn't it, despite the fact that some media in the North East have been rallying against it for a few weeks now.
Yeah, I think it is. There's no smoke without fire, and it all started, a week or so ago. And when you start getting that, and then obviously you hear that now they're talking. I think even last week, Bruno had agreed terms apparently with his representatives. So it's easy for me to say, as agreed terms for his deal. So it was just whether and when or when and where it happened, and I'm sure that he'll probably be coming back and he'll be in London pretty soon to finalise all the medical and get it over the line.
Yeah, and we're expecting the fee to be as high as £80 million.
And I hope so, though, for Newcastle's sake. I hope so for the
You don't want
manager.
another Isak situation.
Yeah, you want him going into that press conference sort of looking at, forward and talking about the team he's got and the players he's trying to bring in, the players that they've brought in, and what he sees as his vision of Newcastle United. Not talking about Bruno for the next week or two, in his first conference.
How many more players they need through the door then, Newcastle, do you think, to be anywhere near in terms of European contention?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is that, a lot of these lads who are coming in are not Premier League proven, and I think that's always a problem. When you have too many, sometimes it can come back and bite you. So I feel like in the next couple of weeks, we will hopefully see that they're going to get some players in who are going to help them young lads to be able to settle into which is the best league in the world, and you can only do that when you've got the experience of doing it, being in it week in, week out. I've spoke about it on the show before. When these lads come over from the Hollands and the Germanys and the Spains and the Frances, they find it really difficult because of the intensity and the mentality what's needed to go and keep going again. And that's one thing which they won't be used to at all.
It's a massive first game they've got as well at home to Liverpool, assuming he's fit, and that's not always a guarantee. That will be the first time that Alexander Isak has played at St James's Park since that British record deal. I'd imagine he's going to get quite a hostile reception.
I was just going to say he's going to get a lovely warm reception, but no. Look, he's a fantastic player and he's done brilliantly for Newcastle. I think what obviously upset the fans is the way it was all handled in the end, and I think probably both parties were to blame in a lot of it. But I felt sorry for Eddie in them moments as well, because a lot of the talk throughout that pre-season was about Alexander Isak, and he was sort of looking to prepare the squad and try and get the best for his team and his squad. So that's why I just don't hope the Bruno cigar comes similar to that. But yeah, look, listen, there's no better place to go to Newcastle. I'm sure Isak will be looking forward to going back there, because it's it's a fantastic place to play your football.
Let's talk about one of the newly promoted teams, Hull City, because their owner, Acun Ilıcalı, very vocal on social media. He's been up to his old tricks again this morning. Our upgraded transfer list coming tomorrow, says the Turkish businessman. This is after he put a list of flags of players from which country was trying to sign, a percentage chance. They're going to hit double figures easily, Hull, in terms of new signings this summer. I understand they've agreed an £18 million fee with Colorado Rapids for the Australian teenage defender Lucas Harrington. Had a really good World Cup for the Socceroos. We're expecting confirmation today that the Olympiacos goalkeeper Konstantinos easy for me to say, Zalakis is done as well. That's a £17 million deal. They're signing Noble Mendy for €20 million, another central defender. And they're in talks with Leon Bailey at Aston Villa. The Bailey one is an interesting one, because I think he's got a lot of talent. As a newly promoted club, would you be a little bit wary about his temperament in the dressing room?
Well, I think it comes down to sort of like the Vinny Jr., don't you? You wonder, because he's got the talent, and you look at him at Villa, but he's been loaned out. He's been sent, out quite a bit.
He did play a lot for Villa when he was recalled for the second half of the season.
Yeah, and I was just going to say he sort of come back, and then was in Unai Emery's plans. So it's going to be interesting now if they will let him go again. But yeah, we had him on last time, didn't we? The Hull owner, and
he's a brilliant guy.
He's a very colourful character, and you can see his love for football, and yeah, he's going to have a right go and try and keep Hull in the league, and you can only do that by what he's trying to do, and that's trying to help the manager to get the better players and the best players in, as well as helping the lads who got them there. Giving them a chance, and an opportunity as well.
He's a bit of a celebrity over in Turkey anyway, but I've been out with him on his yacht on the Bosphor River, and he is treated like a god over there. They call him the Turkish Simon Cowell because he's in charge of all those sort of X Factor TV shows. And I just sense that he's enjoying now being at the top table and being able to compete for Premier League players.
Yeah, exactly that. I think you can see that he's got a love for football, and then when he's come over to Hull, you know, it was a big decision, wasn't it? When, you know, Rosini just missed out on getting into the playoffs a couple of years ago, and he got rid of him and brought somebody else in. You know, he's made big and bold decisions, and sometimes you've got to back that. And he's come out. He's not shied away from it. You know, he's been very much on the forefront. So, you know, sometimes you can't take that away from him. And, you know, look, good luck to him. He's having a right go, and he wants to do well. And he's put Hull back on the map, and he's getting them back in the Premier League.
Yeah, he certainly has. They play Manchester United live on talkSPORT first Saturday of the Premier League season. What about Tottenham showing interest in Cody Gakpo? Now, my understanding is Liverpool don't plan to sell Gakpo this summer, even if they were to recruit Bradley Barcola. But can you understand why Tottenham have been keen to sign him?
Yeah, of course. He probably fits the way, you know, De Zerbi wants to play with his wingers high and wide and everything else. So he seems one of those players. I think Rashford been linked as well. He's been talked about.
Yeah, that's nothing concrete on that, but I just see that as a potential fit late in the window.
Right, okay, so I'll take your word for that on Crookie. So, yeah, no, look, I think a Cody Gakpo would suit a De Zerbi type player, if you like, and a De Zerbi type team. So I can see why, and they're probably, you know, just testing the water to see how far Liverpool have got down the line with Barcola and see if that is something what we're thinking about. So, yeah, watch the space.
Now, we know all about your links with West Ham. Couple of quick ones on your old club. Freddie Potts, first of all, leaving pre-season to go over to Belgium and undergo medical at Club Brugge. It's a £10 million deal. I was a bit surprised by this.
Me too.
Because he's got championship form. He had a really good loan spell at Portsmouth. Yeah. Very popular with the West Ham fans when he did play last season. What's the philosophy behind selling a young academy player?
I'm not too sure, and I think this probably could turn out to be a bit of a mistake, but it's good money for Freddie. I think it's a great move for Freddie, to go to Club Brugge and be able to play in Europe and everything else and what they'll give him and offer him. And play the style he wants, and I'm quite surprised that this has been allowed to happen, if I'm honest, and for him to be able to go, because I thought that he could be one of the players who could stand up this year for West Ham, being, as you've just said, with the links throughout his dad, his brother Dan. It doesn't make sense to me, but yeah, I wish Freddie the luck, because he's a great kid, lovely family, and I'm sure he'll go and be successul over there.
It doesn't smack of great money either. £10 million is
no, we're not in this day.
Yeah,
I think 10 million is probably not enough, if you like. But at the end of the day, Nuno trying to do his way, and he wants to get back. Well, he needs to get West Ham straight back up. That's the thing. He can't afford to languish in the Championship for more than a year. So this is big news for me in terms of how he's looking at the squad, but I'm expecting that there might be a few more going out before the end of the window, and him trying to get the players he wants in.
One potential incoming at London Stadium is Manor Solomon from Spurs, emerging as one of West Ham's main targets for a position on the wing. Not gone down well with a lot of West Ham supporters, though, because of his support for Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, and I think this is probably, where you've got to be careful when you're flipping from one club to another in London, and the West Ham fans, if he doesn't hit the ground running, then all of a sudden, he becomes, not a liability, but someone in the squad who's not sort of performing, and you've got to, because if the West Ham fans get, don't like it at first, and then you don't perform on the pitch, and it's not right.
It's a tough crowd, isn't it?
It's a tough crowd then to turn around. So I'm very surprised to see this, if I'm honest.
There are other names on the list. Morgan Whittaker at Middlesbrough, for example, and Simon Adingra at Sunderland. So they're clearly targeting a winger, obviously having sold players in that position over.
With Somerville going,
Somerville and Kudos the year before,
going to Tottenham. So look, and I'm sure Nuno's looking at it, and he's trying to get the right people in. But some couple of strange ones for me, if you like.
Yeah, talksport.com, the best place for all the latest news from the transfer window. Next up, we'll be looking back, actually, on the return of the Scottish Premiership. It's interesting, this situation with Vinicius Junior, because there were some reports at the weekend that he'd agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Rock Nation, who represent the Real Madrid star, have released a statement hitting out fake news. They said Rock Nation Sports International and our entire team cannot stand idle when unprofessional and uninformed media publish fake and damaging information for attention-seeking purposes. This is especially unacceptable when it personally targets our clients without any foundation. It's disruptive, harmful and libelous, they say. Media outlets and journalists need to hold themselves more accountable. Now, if Vinicius Junior was that keen on a move to Arsenal, would his agency really have gone so strong in the statement?
No, I think. Look, they've been playing the game, haven't they? Let's be honest. I think Vinicius Junior wants to stay in Real Madrid. I think that's where he sees himself. He's probably using Arsenal to some extent to try and, get probably another 100 grand more on his already probably £1 million a week contract. So for me, Crookie, I think I'm expected that he's going to be staying at Real Madrid. I'll be very surprised if we see him in the Premier League and playing for Arsenal next year.
It's a real tall order, isn't it, for any club in the Premier League to tempt a player from Real Madrid. I was speaking over the weekend. I think it was Darren Goff maybe who made the point, or maybe Tony Cascarino. Dennis Bergkamp in the mid-90s when he left Inter Milan. Serie A was the powerhouse then of European football. To join Arsenal was a real surprise. Would this be comparable?
I think it would be. Yeah, I think it's probably bigger.
Good afternoon, I'm Max Scott here with your sports headlines. As pressure mounts on Gianni Infantino, talkSPORT's learned that he will now speak to members of Donald Trump's team to ask for their support today. It's as FIFA federations are withdrawing their support for Infantino. The English FA are due to send a letter making it clear they no longer support him. UEFA's Alexander Shevrin is pushing for a blanket withdrawal of Infantino support from all 55 UEFA nations and is looking to form a pact with CONCACAF. Here's talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs.
And if the number gets to that magic total of 106, a majority from the 211 members, then Infantino may realise even if he wants to stand again, he's being cornered. And as soon as he loses that majority, he may be forced to walk away. And if he doesn't, the next step could be a vote of no confidence.
Former FA Chair David Bernstein says UEFA should go even harder at FIFA.
I think they should extend that and say they would not play in the World Cup if Infantino continues as president. I think the one is sort of so close to the other that I think to continue that threat is a good thing.
And Bruno Guimaraes is late to join up with Newcastle for pre-season in La Manga, but the club say he's just been delayed and will be there today. Bruno is still expected to join Arsenal and is asked to leave. Kevin Nolan says he'll make a great addition for Arteta.
It's a great time, by the way, to try and go back-to-back with Man City changing the managers, Liverpool changing manager, Chelsea changing manager. Everyone's talking about all these, so it's a real good time because they've got a real settled squad who've now got over the line in the Premier League.
Newcastle, meanwhile, have signed goalkeeper Lukas Hornicek from Braga for £25.7 million. Get more on the website talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Reform UK says it would use the military to stop small boats in the Channel, and heat alerts are now in force across many parts of England. Amelia's got more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Sort your new tyres this summer at a time that suits you best from the comfort of your home or work 7 days a week with our mobile tyre fitting service. Conditions apply.
Largely dry in the south today with sunny spells and feeling very hot. Cloudier further north and west with outbreaks of rain at times.
Big breaking news coming out of St James's Park. Newcastle, we understand, have rejected Arsenal's opening bid for their captain Bruno Guimaraes. This on the day Guimaraes is due to link up with the rest of his squad at Newcastle's summer training camp in La Manga. More on that at talksport.com. We'll have a brand new episode of The Window on the TalkSport YouTube channel later as well. No doubt Guimaraes' future will feature heavily in that. Now, the Scottish Premiership returned this weekend. A disappointing start for Rangers and their new manager, Derek McInnes, as they were held to a 1-1 draw at Dundee in the curtain raiser on Friday night. On Saturday, Aberdeen came from 1-0 down to score 2 goals in stoppage time to beat Hearts, of course, who came so close to winning the title last season, 2-1. And tonight, Celtic begin their title defence as they host Dundee. Delighted to say Paul Mitchell, talkSPORT Scottish football correspondent, joins us now. Title race over on day one, Paul?
Not quite. I think St Mirren are racing away with it at the moment with that win at Falkirk. But Celtic will have a chance to close them down.
I mean, for Rangers, though, so much optimism with Derek McInnes coming in. Lawrence Shanklin signed from Hearts, 1 or 2 other signings as well. I think it was Alan Brazil who came on talkSPORT and said that Rangers would be the team to beat this season. So to be held to a draw on the opening night is maybe not what their supporters were hoping for.
No, I mean, definitely not. You've got to give credit to Dundee United. They played reasonably well in the game. And for Rangers, I mean, it is another overhaul of the Rangers squad. And Alex, we seem to talk about that every year. That Rangers, because they keep chopping and changing managers, are chopping and changing their squad. You know, understandably, Derek McInnes wanted to bring in his own players. He's brought in a couple of guys from Hearts that he knows well. Lawrence Shanklin, who's now the club captain at Ibrox, and Cammy Devlin. But he's brought in Dan Neil. Dragicevic is coming from Partizan Belgrade. They're going to take a while to knit together. And also the pressure that we forget that Derek McInnes will put himself under. He's wanted to be Rangers manager. He had a chance before. He now gets that opportunity. He'll be desperate for success. So you just wonder, it's not easy to knit together a team, and that's what he's trying to do this early.
Yeah, let's hear from Derek McInnes. He reflected on that 1-1 draw and admitted his side weren't good enough to win.
Disappointed with the outcome, disappointed with a lot on show. I just felt we wasted a lot of the first half. I didn't think we did enough in the game. In the main, I thought the movement of their front three gave us too many problems, and we never really coped with that. We had work to do. We got ourselves in a bit of bother at half time. Inexplicably, we don't keep the shoulder at the wheel. We start making little basic mistakes, give Dundee United a bit of encouragement again. And we've got to be honest, we didn't do enough, but it's clear we've got work to do to get some players in. We came here with a lot of optimism, and I think it's just one game. You know, I don't want us to, but we've got games to navigate, and we wanted to navigate this one better than we did tonight.
Derek McInnes, very honest there, Paul, admitted his side fell short ultimately. Will Rangers fans respect that honesty?
I think they'll respect the honesty to start with, but I mean, that's now 4 straight seasons that Rangers have failed to win their opening games. I mean, Derek's in good company as far as that's concerned. I think you've got to start to see, you know, the home fixtures. They play at home against Hibs on Sunday. That will be a big game for them, because that's where they've got to set the tone and start to make Ibrox a difficult place to go. Because I think one of the things that if you were to ask various players, they're much more relaxed about going to Ibrox, because it has not been the theatre that it's previously been, that difficult place where you probably go thinking, well, you know, if we lose a couple of nil, you know, that's okay. You know, Rangers score 2 or 3, that's fine. So the aura from Ibrox is gone, largely. Teams go there looking to play, looking to try and win. And Derek McInnes, I think his first job is to restore that aura that Ibrox has.
How do you see Celtic going tonight at home to Dundee? I'd imagine you're predicting a fairly comfortable home victory for the champions.
Dundee ran them close in the Scottish Cup there last season. Were arguably a little bit unlucky to lose. Stephen Presley signed a new deal at Dundee, so he's getting, you know, a second year there and a chance to build on what he achieved last season. They were bottom 6, Dundee, but they've got some useful players there or thereabouts. But and again, it's how they handle the pressure. It's how Celtic handle the pressure as well. You know, Casper Hawk will make his, you know, SPFL debut tonight. £11 million wearing the iconic number 9 jersey for Celtic. There's a little bit of pressure on him. I think the good thing is with Celtic, they'll settle down under Martin O'Neill, but they've still got to change their squad. When you look back at things, you know, they brought in a lot of signings in January to try and boost them. Now, arguably, Celtic did get over the line, but most of those signings have evaporated. They weren't overly successful. They've gone away. Can Celtic hold on to Arnie Engels amid interest from England. So there's still a lot going on at Celtic Park. And nervously, Celtic have got a Champions League playoff round that they will be expected to win. And what we cannot see, that from the Celtic fans' perspective, is Celtic cannot lose that playoff if they've not invested in players. Last season, they waited to see if they would get to the Champions League. They didn't, and then they didn't get the player investment rights. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Celtic in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, Celtic against LASK, the Austrian champions, in that playoff round. Talk to me about Hearts, if you can, because they were hammered in their Champions League qualifier 6-0 on aggregate against Sturm Graz, and they lost their first game of the weekend despite leading until late on. Should Hearts fans already be a bit concerned about life under new manager Wouter Franken?
They already are. I think it's as simple as that. They already are. I mean, football fans, they get an expectation level, and Hearts were terrific last season. I think a lot of Hearts fans accepted that, they've lost their manager, they've lost their striker, they've lost, Cammy Devlin, that little terrier in midfield, and that's going to be hard to replace for Hearts. The only thing we knew about the new Hearts manager, it would be somebody that we'd probably never heard of, and that is certainly the case there. Sturm Graz were obviously ready for Hearts. Hearts arguably a little bit lucky in that first half. They could have scored a couple of goals away in Austria, but the Austrians took care of them. But I think Hearts fans would be more disappointed with the weekend. You're leading at Pittodrie, and then it just all goes wrong. You can see the headed goal to Lewis Mayo. Stuart Finlay gets sent off. Kevin Nisbet scored. Mind you, Alex, it's a fixture that the away team never wins, whether it's Aberdeen at Tynecastle or Hearts at Pittodrie. So there's no great surprise. But I think it's the manner in which Hearts that have gone down in these games that will really be causing concern around Tynecastle way.
Paul, thanks very much for joining us, bringing us bang up to date on the opening weekend of the Scottish Premiership. That's Paul Mitchell, our Scottish football correspondent. You'll be hearing from him throughout the course of the season. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Next up, we'll be looking back on Leeds' comeback victory against Liverpool last night.
Having won the league last season, I mean, you mentioned this to me in the break. Do you think it's more emphasis on the Champions League this time?
Possibly, without wanting to obviously downplay anything else around it. Possibly there will, within the camp, that little bit of extra determination to try and get over the line in the Champions League. They'll be right in there again. Champions League is such fine margins, those matches, when you get to the quarters and the semis of those games, you can be in pole position with 10 minutes to go and go out. It's very, very difficult to absolutely guarantee anything at that level and that stage of that competition. They're the team to beat in the Premier League. I think the squad, I just looked at the squad again, Jeff. They've got so many good players. I mentioned to you about William Saliba obviously being out for a bit, not sure, a back injury, and backs can be a bit weird. You can feel like it's all clearing up, then all of a sudden something doesn't feel right again. They can frustrate you. But they've got Nkapie, they've got Calafiori, they've got others that can all play alongside Gabriel and cope admirably in that position. Still got, as far as I'm aware, unless I've missed something, but they've still got players to cover pretty much every position, every eventuality. So they're in great shape, great health. And if they get another big one through the door, another real top draw player, and I'm not sure who that is and in what position that would necessarily be, but I think if they sent a message in that respect, oh wow, they're going to take some stopping.
Well, obviously it looks like Bruno Guimaraes is going to be through the door.
He's the one. Do you like him?
I love him.
Alex Crook alongside the former Newcastle, Bolton and West Ham midfielder Kevin Nolan all the way through until 1 o'clock this afternoon. A reminder of the breaking news from the last 15 minutes or so. We understand Newcastle have rejected Arsenal's first formal bid for their captain Bruno Guimaraes. We also now understand Guimaraes has touched down in Spain, ready to link up with his Newcastle teammates. The expectation still, I think certainly from the Arsenal side and from the Guimaraes camp, is that this deal does get done, Kevin. I know you're of the belief that the sooner that can happen, the better, so there's no sort of Alexander Isak style saga.
Yeah, just get it done. I mean, because, just to give the new Newcastle manager a chance to be able to go in front of the press officers or the press, I should say, and be able to talk about Newcastle and what his vision is moving forward. The more that this continues and the cigar goes on, and then you're just thinking, why? Because it looks inevitable now that the deal will get done. So just put your price on the table. This is what we want. This is what we expect, and then Bruno will be on the way to you, Arsenal, and then see if that happens. If not, it's just it can't be drawn out like it was last year, because it just won't give them a chance.
I guess they were never going to accept the first offers because it's part of the negotiating, isn't it?
Yeah, but you think that they wouldn't be too far away. I think that this is obviously when you go into the negotiation table, you have one valuation, I'll have the other, and we sort of normally meet in the middle. And I think because it's gone down that far, and as we said earlier in the programme, that Bruno seems with his representatives to have handled all his side of it. I think it's only inevitable now that it's going to be done, but I'd rather it just be done quickly now to give them a chance and let Newcastle fans enjoy the fact that they've got a young new manager with new players, and they're going to give them the best chance to succeed in the Premier League.
Yeah, Newcastle over in Spain, Liverpool in the US. They threw away a 2-goal lead overnight as Leeds won the final match of both teams' American tour 4-2. It was all one-way traffic in the first half. Andoni Iraola's men, Luke Chambers and Florian Wirtz, put Liverpool into a 2-goal lead, but Leeds brought on Dominic Calvert-Lewin and one of their summer signings, Harry Wilson, at half-time. The tie quickly turned. They scored 3 times in 13 minutes. Brendan Harrison benefiting from a Milos Kerkez's mistake. He got the first goal back. Calvert-Lewin levelled from a long throw. Sean Longstaff completed the comeback with a scuff finish 2 minutes later before Calvert-Lewin completed his double. Now, you can't read too much into pre-season, Kev, but should Liverpool fans be a bit concerned about the lack of transfer activity, the big-name departures this summer, and now throwing away that 2-0 lead?
Well, I don't think that the results matter. I think when you go out on these, I know because they're televised now, everything, years and years ago, we used to go out to, I remember going out to South Korea, Japan, New Zealand, been out to Australia at times, but they're all televised now. We never used to get that, really. It was just sort of you going out there for your pre-season results. And now everything's sort of scrutinised, and they were very dominant in that first half, but led to believe that they made a lot of changes at half time, Liverpool. So, it's something which you won't do in the Premier League. So, that sometimes disrupts, and, they've made changes as well, Leeds, and it just swung the game in the favour. 13 minutes. He won't be happy that he's conceded 4 goals, I shouldn't imagine. The manager, he won't be happy that, he's conceded in the manner of what he conceded in. But it's all part and parcel of getting it right and making it right, and him getting to know his players and getting to know what he wants. But I think the biggest worry what the Liverpool fans will be having now is there's not much going on off the field.
I'm sure there is in the background.
Yeah. But we're not hearing it.
No.
And what I will say, though, Crookie, is you never do with Liverpool. Yeah. It's one of those clubs where, they get the job done and everything's done properly and right. So for me, I'm sure, they're speaking to people, they're trying to get the right people in. But, with Salah going in the summer, you needed someone to go and replace him. There's talk about Barcola. How far down the line is that? Is it going to happen?
Even if it does, though, he's a left winger.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mo Salah played off the right. He didn't have his best season last year, but still needs replacing, doesn't he?
Of course he does, yeah. Of course he does. And that's why I'm surprised. Like, Jared Bowen wasn't linked. I know when Jurgen Klopp was there, he really, really liked Jared Bowen and he was high on the priority list. I think if Jurgen was still there, I think he probably would be a Liverpool player now. But the biggest thing, and I'm not saying that now because I don't want the West Ham fans to start having a go at me, Crookie. I want
trying to sell their players.
Jared Bowen's staying, and we want him to stay, and we're glad that he is. But someone of his calibre, though, I'm talking about, Crookie, where I expected them to be in the door, and that's something what I've been quite surprised as that Liverpool haven't got the job, the players in the door to help Areola move on with the squad, and they've got problems at the back as well with injuries. But not only that, the problems what they had all season long in conceding goals. They've lost Robertson. I know Kirkes is there, but they've lost Robertson. How is that going to affect them in the long run? So there's still lots of work to do for Liverpool off the field.
And it's not great for Kirkes, is it? It's only a friendly, but he's made a mistake. It's cost them a goal, and he had a really disappointing debut season at Anfield. So confidence wise,
and I see
brilliant.
And you see that a lot. When players go from another Premier League club to a Liverpool, a Man United, and Arsenal, Chelsea, it's different because the pressures are different. What's expected of you. And Kirkes, the highlight of, and no disrespect whatsoever to Bournemouth, they fantastic club, fantastically well run, but they only have 12,000 at home every week. Liverpool have 60 odd. So it's going to be a different intensity, and playing away from home sometimes there's no pressure on you, but having to do it week in, week out, and under a new manager, under new way of playing, and let's be honest, not many Liverpool players flourished last year. Probably Dominic Szoboszlai was probably the only one who, in the whole of the team who you'd look back and go and had a positive season for Liverpool. So yeah, I don't think he'll be, there's not red flags and there's no worry. I think the biggest worry from Liverpool supporters at this moment in time will be the action off the field and getting players in.
Andy Townsend was on breakfast this morning. He came up with quite a novel idea for Liverpool's recruitment gurus.
If he came back to Liverpool, would he improve them? 100%. Yes. It's so important nowadays with these fullbacks being such an important part of a team's attacking intentions. If you can't deliver anything half decent when you get into a good area, which Trent can do in his sleep, that's, I think, what it's about. Are we going to be better if this guy potentially came back? Again, how much that deal would cost the club and what the numbers would be, I would have no idea. But if it was a loan deal, if it was a loan fee coming out of Madrid back to Liverpool for a season, well, I think he improves you. I mean, I think he should be welcomed back through the door, absolutely with open arms. But I don't know what the feeling would be like really on Merseyside on that.
So Andy Townsend there on breakfast saying Trent Alexander-Arnold should be brought back to Anfield. I personally think too much water has flowed under that particular bridge. And he had when he got fit towards the back end of the season, he played well for Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think again, they underwhelmed last year, didn't they, Real Madrid? Yeah. But I thought he started to get in at the end of the season when he come back from his injuries. So I can't see that one happening. And yeah, as you said, there's maybe just a little bit too much water under the bridge now, which has gone past. Did you break that, Crookie? Did you break that could happen?
Trent coming back, nothing to do with me. No, that's why Andy's the ex-pro and I'm the transfer man.
Was that a Jeff Stellar Andy thing? Was it? Yeah.
Let's just focus on Leeds, shall we? Because obviously they came back from behind to beat Liverpool. James Trafford were expecting to undergo a medical this week ahead of a £40 million move from Manchester City. They've got Harry Wilson, who scored against his former club. Do you think Leeds are going to have another progressive season, having stayed up relatively comfortable actually last year.
Yeah, he found his way, didn't he? And when he went to that back three at Man City last year, and then he went with it throughout the rest of the season, and he looked, where he could hit teams and played really well. And as you said, got Premier League status for another season quite comfortably. I think they've added really well, I must admit. I think Wilson, who I was going to call him James Wilson then from a long time ago. Yeah. Harry Wilson, who had a fantastic season, probably one of his best in the Premier League last year.
Perfect timing for him.
Exactly.
Coming into his end of his career. Suddenly starts scoring 25-yard screamers every week.
And the end of his contract at Fulham, and I think, Fulham would have been desperate to try and keep hold of him because of what he was, and he was such a big player for them last year. Biggest thing for him now is, can he go and do it at Leeds, which I probably consider a bigger club than Fulham, no disrespect, in terms of what would be expected of him now to go and, show, can he do it again? Can you do it again in year out and be that top midfielder, what we all thought he was when he broke on to the scene early in his teens? So, big one. James Trafford, fantastic signing for me. I think, once they get that over the line, that's going to be a big plus for them, and a big plus for England as well, because I see this lad as the future number one and the one taking over Jordan Pickford at some time.
Yeah, I think he sees that for himself as well. Very confident young lad. Let's get details of the Europa League playoff round. A few tongue twisters here sent in to me by producer Ollie. So if Rangers beat Jagiellonia, they'll play Lana or Iberia 1999 in the playoff round. If Hearts beat Benfica, which would appear very unlikely, they'll play Aarhus or Saba. And if Shamrock Rovers get past Ignatia, they will play the Norwegian side Lillestrøm. So there you go. You are bang up to date with the Europa League draw. We heard about Celtic's Champions League opponents earlier, and we should find out in the next half an hour or so who Brighton will face in their Conference League playoffs. To stay with talkSPORT, next up we're going to be looking at how Amanda Staveley is set to buy a 25% stake in Kev's old club West Ham. Staying with Liverpool, there are some reports that they have now made a formal offer worth £100 million for Bradley Barcola. I reported a couple of days ago that Barcola wanted to make the move to Anfield, but you've not been too inspired by this possibility.
No, I'm with Jamie Carragher in the camp that I saw him the other day talking about it. We have like 3-4 left wingers already, players who can play there. We need to fill the void by Salah. Frimpong was meant to help with that, but we know he's got medical injury issues last year and not quite what we like to see out wide right when he did play. We need a right winger. It's concerning. And we're going out and we're getting another pacey player who plays on the left majority of the time. So unless Rio's going to get put on the right, square pegs, round holes, all that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love it because of the money. If he was 60, 70 million, and I get it, he's not. Yeah. You think, okay, it's a no-brainer. Then you maybe sell Gakpo and you clear up some space on the left and you still go get a right winger. But Liverpool right now are playing with one centre-back and the other centre-back on one leg. So, they've got issues. McAllister's going to come back. He was a shadow of himself last year. They need some help in central midfield. Potentially need a right-back because really we haven't got a right-back. Frimpong's obviously going to play in
Joe
there.
Gomez is now going to miss the start of the season.
Yeah, that's Joe Gomez. God bless him. He could have been a world-class defender, but obviously injuries have stopped that. So Liverpool have got a lot of holes to fill. So, and you got to start a right wing to fill Mo Salah's, departure. So it does concern me that we're going down this rabbit hole where we might end up paying, I don't know, like the Weirts money. You overpay, and then does the player adapt to the Premier League, and is it another bad signing? And it's frustrating for me.
talkSPORT News.
A very good afternoon. You're listening to talkSPORT. Here with your news headlines, I'm Amelia Beltrao. Reform UK says it would use the military to stop small boats in the Channel. The party says the Royal Navy would intercept migrant boats and return them to France or Belgium.
It only takes one or two Iranian terrorists to come into Britain and commit a mass atrocity for this to be a disaster.
Well, that's party leader Nigel Farage speaking there. Labour's accusing the party of distractions. It's as the Sun's claiming French police are charging the UK £8,000 for every migrant they stop in the Channel, and it could be a total of £1 billion by the end of the year. Meanwhile, Reform UK's deputy leader Richard Tice is being investigated over an allegation he failed to declare an interest. He said the complaint related to a Commons debate about Israeli influence in June. Tice made a speech during it, but didn't mention he had been on a trip to Israel last September, funded by a pro-Israel lobbying group. Now, a man has been arrested after a 9-year-old girl has been found injured at an industrial estate in Angus, who then later died in hospital. The child's death is being treated as suspicious. And British farmers are giving up growing food after repeated heat waves causing their harvests to fail. Some are warning we could have food shortages this winter. It's as heat health alerts are now in place across England, with temperatures possibly reaching 35 this afternoon.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For workable, easy-to-apply mortar that tools easily, pros trust Bostik.
talkSPORT understands Gianni Infantino is meeting with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio as he seeks to get support from the US government in his bid to remain as FIFA president. And Newcastle have rejected Arsenal's first official bid for Bruno Guimaraes.
Into the last half an hour of the programme, Alex Crook alongside the former West Ham, Newcastle and Bolton midfielder Kevin Nolan before Paul and Andy return to the airwaves at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Andy has sent us a message on WhatsApp. He said, it doesn't seem fair Celtic and Rangers have to play a qualifier for the Champions League after being champions in their own league. If Swansea or Cardiff were to get fourth in the Premier League, they would go straight in. Well, that's because Rangers and Celtic in recent years, when it comes to European performances, have let themselves down a bit.
Yeah, and I think
let the coefficient down.
Well, I mean, last year spoke for itself. I think when Celtic didn't make it and was expected to, so I think that's what where it's at this moment in time. And I think the reason why the Premier League is takes 4, maybe 5 teams is because it's the best league in Europe.
Yeah, and obviously English teams have fared very well in Europe, which is why I think, again, the top 5 this season probably would get into next season's Champions League. Details of Brighton's Conference League playoff opponents to come later, maybe after we come off air, but stay tuned to H&J for that. Now, a bit of news coming out of West Ham over the last few days. Former co-owner David Gold's daughter, Vanessa, confirming in a public statement the family plans to sell its shares in the club to a consortium headed by ex-Newcastle co-owner Amanda Staveley. It had been previously reported Gold's family had been holding discussions with Staveley's consortium, including her husband, Mehrdad Gadushi, over a 25% stake in the Championship club. Let's hear from Amanda Staveley. This interview recorded before the West Ham agreement, but she did discuss with Bloomberg her start with Newcastle and the challenges they faced.
When we arrived, there was no staff. There were very, very skinny staff at Newcastle. Remember, when we took over, we were 19th, 95% chance of being relegated. We had a manager that wanted to walk out. That was tough. And we had to build not only the football side, we had to buy players. We had to bring commercial values. We had to convince, the Premier League. And then we had to go through this total change of new rules at the Premier League as well. Richard Masters was great from day one. And so they actually trusted that we would do the job we did. And I think we did prove that.
Amanda Staveley there talking about her time as co-owner of Newcastle. I don't think it's unfair, and we've spoken a lot about Newcastle, Kev, and other your old clubs, but I think they seem to be better run when she was there than since she departed. They seem to have more direction under Staveley than maybe they've had since.
Yeah, I think it's probably what you know, because Eddie had seemed to have a good relationship with Amanda, and it looked like, you know, they were all going in the same direction. I think what sort of coming out over the last year or two is that there's been difference of opinions behind the scenes and how it looks and how the club should look. So this is welcoming news, I should imagine, for the West Ham fans. You know, I know the Gold family very close. We was at the, you know, was remembrance in his funeral, Mr. Gold, and you know, it was a sad day, sad moment for West Ham. You know, we love the club, and his family, you know, are brilliant, and then they're probably trying to do the right thing now for West Ham, and you know, sort of stepping away now, because you know, his girls have, you know, done fantastically well themselves in their own right. So yeah, I'm not too surprised to see it. And it'll be interesting now to see, you know, how much, you know, she has and influence she will have when this takeover happens.
Yeah, David Gold passing away, as you say, in 2023. He was joint chairman of the Hammers for 13 years alongside long-term business associate David Sullivan. Sullivan remains the largest shareholder in the club despite stepping away from day-to-day running of it. Daniel Kretinsky, the Czech businessman, has the next highest stake. It was reported in June the deal would have seen Kretinsky's stake in the club rise from 27% to 43%. That would have made him majority shareholder, but it looks like Staveley and her husband have nipped in. I was told over the weekend that Kretinsky has matching rights, so potentially could come back in with a rival offer. But do you think West Ham fans would welcome Amanda Staveley based on what she did at Newcastle?
Yeah, I think you've got to. I think, you know, you only go with what you've seen before and what she's been credited with and everything else. So I don't think they'll be turning the nose up at the idea. I think what they will be wondering is why Daniel's side of it, you know, getting the majority shareholder of it, why isn't it happen with him? Why isn't it gone to him? So it'll be interesting to see if he can counter that and come back with to be able to take the majority shareholder of the club, because I'm sure and I think and what I've heard is that's always been in line for him to do and to take over.
How important do you think it is to have an owner or an investor that is proactive and passionate when it comes to understanding the fans and what they want? Because I was at the last game of last season. David Sullivan was advised by security to leave early. They turned on him after Jarrah Bowen scored. It was pretty clear at that stage they were going to get relegated. I think they felt that Bowen would probably be sold. They need a positive atmosphere, don't they, going into the new season?
They definitely do. They need a good start, and that's why I said, you know, earlier on when we were talking about Nuno getting some real good positive signings in before the end of the season. As I said, it's never easy retaining or trying to retain or get back up into the Premier League after you've just gone down. They've had a fantastic news with Jarrah a couple of weeks ago. Now they've got to build on that. So yeah, you want more positive news. You know, obviously it's not helped with what's happened with Mr. Sullivan, and hopefully they can get to the bottom of all that and we can put that to bed, and then, you know, and the club can move on, because I think he's always had the right. What I'm trying to say, he's always had the right intention to try and do the best for the club, and I think you've seen that with the money he spent a couple of seasons ago, which hasn't quite worked and quite, you know, helped. After he let David go, he spent a lot of money in that summer, you know, trying to make the club go to another level. It hasn't worked out, and unfortunately, once that happens, you know, fans do turn, and he's seen the brunt of it now. And so, look, I want them to be able to return, and what I think is that they've got to get the players in to do that, because that builds positivity around the club and then outside the club as well.
Because their first game in the League Cup, live on the talkSPORT network next Saturday, 3:00 kickoff, they take on Portsmouth. 10,000 Pompey fans, by the way, making their way to the London Stadium. It's been a slow summer in terms of incomings at the moment. We know they're in talks with Arne Engels at Celtic. Celtic want 25 million by all accounts. And we heard from Bill Leckie, he's not exactly pulled up too many trees north of the border. That seems a lot of money for a club in the Championship.
Yeah, I think it is. Probably is overinflated for the player Engels. I think I've watched not seen a lot of him, but I think that, you know, 25 million is a lot money. I think you could probably get, especially when you look at a Freddie Potts going out for 10 million, and he's going, out of the club who's a born and bred West Ham fan and come through the ranks, done well when he's been in the champ with Portsmouth. So yeah, it seems a bit of overinflation on the pricing for them, but I think what they're trying to do is what any club will try and do now is they've noticed that they've just raked in 50 million, so they're going to try and get as much as that they can when West Ham are coming for their players.
Other names mentioned, we talked about Manor Solomon earlier. I mentioned as well Simon Adingra at Sunderland, Reece Nelson potentially on West Ham's list, and Wilson Isidore, who obviously played at the World Cup. He is also of interest to West Ham, along with Troy Parrott, who's got a lot of clubs after him, actually, likes of Ajax and Real Betis. So you'd imagine West Ham not favourites to sign him, but Isidore in the Championship could be a decent pickup. Yeah. Again, I think when you're talking about some of the players, what they're looking at, you're not turning your nose up at it. You're thinking, but it's just getting them in for the right price. I like the thought if they can get Troy Parrott over. I think he's done really well since he's left Tottenham and sort of went away and sort of revitalised his career, if you like, in abroad, and to come back, I think he will have something. So, but yeah, I think Isidore would be another good. Well, he's a good target. Hopefully, they can get him over the line. Yeah, it looks like Aaron Wan-Bissaka will move on. He didn't turn up for the club's pre-season photo shoot, which is usually a bit of a sign that maybe his future lays elsewhere. Yeah, I don't quite get this. When I think what we've got to try and do is these players now. If I'm going to go this way, Crookie, with it. When we got relegated with Newcastle, I always remember, and we played in pre-season, and a few players were, they weren't on it. They didn't really want. They thought that they were better than the Championship. What you've got to do is you've got to get rid of that quite quickly as a club, and if that's the reaction what he's come back with, and from the World Cup, Wan-Bissaka, and he's walking around and he's being a bit mopey, and he thinks that he's better than the Premier League. He's got to realise, and what they've got to do is try their best to get them out of the club, because they're not going to help you. They're not going to help you on the pitch. They're not going to help a Jared Bowen who wants to stay there. And if I was a Jared Bowen in that, because I remember standing up in the dressing room after we've just lost the game to Leyton Orient 6-1. You can imagine. Wow. We lost 6-1 and I stood in the dressing room and I'm saying things. I said, if you don't want to be here, then tell us and we'll help you get out. Because I want to be here. I want to do what's right for Newcastle United. I want to prove that we can get them back. So I think it's really important that West Ham get that right. Yeah, absolutely. West Ham against Portsmouth in the League Cup, live on talkSPORT this Saturday. It's a 3:00 kickoff. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan in for White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Next up, we'll be looking at Manchester City players who have publicly supported their new boss, Enzo Maresca. The Asian Football Confederation in the last couple of hours have come out and condemned Gianni Infantino's proposals to sell off very late combinations, aren't they? They're all panicking. Competitions. Well, they are. Obviously, UEFA have come out strongest by suggesting they would boycott all FIFA competitions, including the Men's and Women's World Cup, the Club World Cup. There's actually an Under-20 Women's World Cup that's due to start in September, so we may find out if they'll go through with that threat very soon. UEFA's 55 member associations held an emergency meeting earlier this week, and as I say, they voted a boycott if FIFA proceeds with plans to sell stakes in its competitions to private investors. There was a statement released by FIFA, I think it was 4:00 this morning UK time, so we were all napping. They said nobody is selling football, but they did vow to continue with the controversial proposal to sell stakes in its competition to private investors. FIFA, in their statement, claimed the consultation process had been, quote, disrupted by incorrect media reports. My answer to this is that everyone always screams about FIFA's a bit of a dictatorship, but it's actually a democracy whereby you still have to have all the nations vote for this through, Alex, right? Yes. So Infantino can't just force it through. It was never going to happen that way, and I think it's dead in the water now. Well, I was just about to come on to that. So in order for this proposal to be passed, FIFA's 211 members would need to vote. Therefore, Infantino would need 106 votes in favour.
Yep.
UEFA and CONCACAF members combined make up 96 of those votes. The AFC makes up 47. So
that's how democracy works.
It's dead, basically.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It is dead.
You're listening to Alex Crook alongside Kevin Nolan on talkSPORT. We've been talking throughout the morning about Gianni Infantino's future as FIFA president. We can now reveal via my colleague Ben Jacobs that there is going to be a meeting, we think via telephone today, with the under pressure FIFA president and members of the Donald Trump administration. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State for America, is expected to be on the call. I mean, get yourself a bigger shovel, Gianni. This is going to have the opposite effect, isn't it? What on earth's it got to do with Donald Trump?
And this is what I can't get over now. I think it's now becoming sort of farcical.
It's almost
and
comical.
laughable, and yeah, that's the word I was looking for, farcical and comical. And yeah, again, just to make everyone hate you that little bit much, you sort of you start talking to Marco Rubio about
to try and get support from the Trump administration and keep yourself in a job.
Yeah, I mean, and after what had happened with Balogun in the World Cup, then no one's going to say, "Oh yeah, that's really
it's a really endorsement."
Who is actually talking to Infantino and going, "This will be a really good idea." That's what you've got to worry about.
If you're Infantino now, you just have some pride, don't you? And you fall on your sword, jump before you're pushed.
I think
he can't survive this.
Well, I'll be very surprised if he does. Crookie. But you know, I mean, stranger things have happened, if you like. Even with Sepp Blatter, you remember him and how he went down in a disgrace, really.
Well, Sepp Blatter was on social media during the World Cup having a go at Infantino. When that happens, when you're getting moral lessons from Sepp Blatter, you've probably reached the point of no return.
Yeah, and I think there was a bit of, sort of a little smirk from Sepp Blatter as well by giving him a little dig, because obviously he ousted him himself, So, but yeah, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible to think that, with all the stuff what's gone on over the last 24 hours, 48 hours, when this all started last week or two, he's decided that he's going to have a meeting with Trump's administration. Very, very strange, mate.
As a sort of...
and comical. That's why we're laughing.
I could say a lot.
How does it get any worse?
I could say a lot more, but I better not. Let's talk Man City, shall we? Because we've covered most of the big guns in the Premier League over the course of the last 3 hours or so. Enzo Maresca in situ. A lot of City players coming out very positively about their new gaffer, Joško Guardiola, who's fresh from agreeing terms on a new contract, says I think he has a quality, has some new ideas Also, we need to see what we are going to do with the style of play, the football we're going to play and tactics. I think he is a perfect one. But, of course, it takes time. Antoine Semenyo had such a good second half of the season after being signed from Bournemouth in the January window. I think Maresca's ideas are great, quite similar to Pep. But if you watch the Inter Milan game, you've seen a couple of his ideas play out. It was good. Enzo is just stay out wide, and when you get the ball, create opportunities. That's music to my ears. I guess when a new manager comes in, if you get asked about him publicly, you're not going to say anything negative. But should it encourage Manchester City fans, what these players are saying? And having not won the title for 2 years, is there an argument that maybe a change of voice in the dressing room could have a really positive impact?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, there was no underlying feeling here that this wasn't going to happen at some point. Maresca was going to come back. It looks like that. It's been done. Yeah, exactly. It's been done. And I think it's been done probably before that when he left to go to Chelsea in the first place. Yeah. He was always to come back and sort of replace Pep. And I feel that's why he had the problems with the hierarchy at Chelsea to sort of, I'm going to step away and wait for this. Having done a good job in his first year with the trophies he'd won. So, look, I wouldn't expect any difference, but he's very highly thought of within the game. All people at West Ham speak very highly of him when his time at there before he went over to Man City. And I think he's proven that he's a top coach. He can handle it as being a head coach. What can he do now? Can he follow one of the greatest ever managers in the Premier League? Can he go and do that and put his stamp on a club where Pep ran from top to bottom? Can he go and now do that and be successful with it? That's only time will tell. But the players seem to have enjoyed the first weeks, if we say, of his tenure, and we'll only see as the season goes along.
Let's hear from the new Manchester City manager. He's been discussing his side's title hopes ahead of the new season.
We're going to try to do our best to win titles this season. Premier League is one of the titles that we need to try at least until the end. In terms of a chance, I think in this moment it's too early. What I like is the day by day to help the players to improve, because if you improve players, the team improve, and this is important. And then in terms of a chance, we see.
Enzo Maresca, fresh in the door at Manchester City. Darren McAntony was in that chair last week. He's back tomorrow, actually, 10-1. He was saying if they keep Rodri, he would actually make Manchester City favourites to reclaim the title from Arsenal. Do you understand that viewpoint, Rodri having had a brilliant World Cup?
Well, I think I was on before that last week, and I was saying that. So I think he's just gone with me. Crook,
just copying you. Yeah, that's what he does, Darren.
I'm only messing. No, yeah, I was saying I was in here last week early on. I said if Rodri would be the one, if you can keep him in the building, that'll help. That will not only help Maresca, but it'll help an Anderson settling into what's going to be a different life now at Man City, and I believe that it gives them more opportunity, a better opportunity of winning and regaining the Premier League back. I think if he was to leave and go to Real Madrid, I think Man City will be one of the favourites, no doubt, but I think it does lessen the chances of them regaining it.
Manchester City in action in the Community Shield, live from Cardiff, Sunday, August the 16th. We'll have that game on talkSPORT. A week later, they host Bournemouth in their first Premier League game, his first home game in charge, Maresca. Then it's Palace away on a Friday night live on talkSPORT. Coventry at home before a Manchester derby Sunday, September the 13th. That Manchester derby apart, and they're always tricky fixtures. That looks fairly favourable for Maresca in terms of getting points on the board early on.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about Arsenal earlier, there was a few tricky ones in there, wasn't he? They're all where you feel that if he can get off to a good start, and it'll give him an opportunity to be put a little bit of pressure and early pressure on Arsenal come the coming weeks in the Premier League, early weeks I should say, in the Premier League.
We've seen that the last couple of seasons. Arsenal had a really good start and went on to win the title. Liverpool, the season before, were pretty faultless up until about March.
Yeah, and then sort of foot off the break, if you like, when they all started going off to Dubai and Ibiza, because they knew that they'd won it. But yeah, look, I think it's always important you get off to a good start, whether you want to win the league or whether you want to stay in the league. And I think that's what and normally come the first international break, you sort of start seeing the league, pitted out to where people will be in and around come the end of the season.
Is it just a given that Erling Haaland wins the Golden Boot? Obviously had a brilliant World Cup for Norway.
Well, he looked special in the World Cup, didn't he? I mean, he carried that Norwegian side. Look, they've got some good players, you know, and I mean, people were underestimating them. I think 16 of their squad play in Europe. You know, you've got to remember that there's some good top players in there, and a lot of them play in England as well. But yeah, I mean, he just showed his true class, and you know what a dream he would be to have in your team when you know you've got someone like him. You know, and you can see he's all in when he's playing with them, which is really good to see. The superstar he is. He wants the best for Norway, and I think he showed that.
And he looks to be enjoying his summer as well. There was a video, wasn't there, of him smashing golf balls into the sea, listening to Ella Langley, Choosing Texas, which was the song of the summer for anybody who was over at the States.
Your favourite song, you mean, Crookie?
I've been driving the kids mad, by the way. I put it on the Alexa every morning. They aren't as big a country music fan as I am. Kev, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, mate. Great to see you again.
Always a pleasure. That's the former Newcastle Bolton.
Have a great 10 days as well, mate.
Kevin Nolan, I will.
Yeah,
well, one more day with Dara,
and
then I can have a holiday. Paul and Andy on the way next on talkSPORT. Let's bring in Terry Gibson, Spanish football expert. Terry, always good to speak to you. Lots of news stories over in Spain at the moment. Let's start with that Marcus Rashford farewell post to Barcelona. Looks like his hopes of return to the Camp Nou are now very much over.
Yes, it does, and I think it was a blow to him when Anthony Gordon. It must have been kind of awkward when the England team met up for the World Cup when Anthony Gordon had already completed his move to Barcelona. Marcus Rashford's future was hanging in the air. And then they signed Karim Adeyemi. So it's not going to happen now for Marcus Rashford. I have to be honest, I'm really surprised. I thought it was a good value in terms of the transfer fee, and I thought his form last season was as good as you would expect. And he couldn't have done any more. He scored some important goals. He actually effectively got the goal that won them the league title. He was popular with his teammates and popular with the fans. So I'm surprised. Even when Anthony Gordon signed, I still thought there was a possibility that Rashford would still go, but the signing of Adeyemi has put a stop to that.
Is it just wages? Because obviously Anthony Gordon would command a much lower weekly salary than Rashford.
But he was £80 million. Rashford was 26.
Yeah.
So 26 million, slightly difference in their ages as well. People are forgetting they've got Rafinha that plays there as well. So the problem positions that everyone thought they had, and they still have, are centre forward, Lewandowski leaving the club, and they should have bought a better centre back than what they currently have.